Louder with Crowder is brought to you in part by
CrowderShop.com.
Head over to the shop, support the fight, and buy some cool threads. It's the Tits Pajamas. CrowderShop.com.
Some of the voter ID laws that we have seen, some situations where it is harder for minorities to vote in this country.
Instead of trying to appeal to diverse voters, you just rather try and block their votes?
This is nothing but punitive, designed to keep people from voting.
There are about 5 people in this entire group of people that are wearing masks. And actually, this is a violation of SMU protocols. All of you are in violation, but it doesn't really matter.
Isn't it beautiful? That is disgusting.
Nice.
So I was expecting something else, but because of our boycott of Coke, we can't have any Topo Chico. So I have something that tastes like cherry syrup put into old pond water.
Hey, not bad.
Thank you, whoever served that to me. Really glad we have a lot going on today. Tomorrow we have to change my mind. It's a rough start to because apparently we've been banned from Shopify. No reason given, just our political view. I don't know, but CrowderShop.com is still up. We've had to sort of jerry rig it. I'll update you tomorrow. But today we are going to be live fact-checking the closing arguments for the Chauvin trial. So let's go right now and see. The judge is not wearing his turtle mask.
No.
What is he talking about?
Aiding the commission of this crime. The elements of the crime of murder in the second degree while committing a felony are...
So on the last day of the trial, he's giving more instructions.
Well, I mean, this is before deliberation.
It's like after putting your bed that turns into a bookcase together, and then like, let me check out the Swedish instructions. Schmurgy, oh, well, it's useless now. We have a great show. We have Gerald A. here. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
You know the answer. Never well. How are you, Quarter Black Garrett?
I'm doing good so far.
Yeah, well, you know what?
We'll
people were set back a little bit at that Jake Paul fight.
We have
Ben Askren on the show, by the way. Ben Askren, you just, lost to Jake Paul in unceremonious fashion. Thank you.
Too bad.
But we have a lot to talk about with him. And then Dave Landau Davis here. How are you?
Ahoy, I'm good. How about you?
You know, people missed you when you were gone.
I had a lot of fans come out, though, and they were awesome. They brought me candy and cigars.
Someone brought you a fake Cuban for me.
Fake Cuban? That
That's
guy?
how I know you love me.
It could be real. It was Florida.
No, the guy who gave it to me, he was a white guy, clearly in brown face. And he's like, I'm a fake Cuban. This is a fake Cuban.
You don't even look like a Cuban. You look Dominican. Really? Damn it.
Here we go again.
I'm out of... They all wear Tommy Bahama.
Wouldn't trust his double Corona. So, look, before we go on here to the trial, we have a lot to get to as far as Maxine Waters. The cities have been burning, obviously, across the country. We want to set some context here as to this is one of the tone, the tenor, right? You had, remember Rodney King, you had OJ.
Yeah.
This is kind of a reverse OJ in this case. Actually, Austin said that. It's a bit of a reverse OJ in that everyone is terrified that if they don't convict this guy of guilty, there are going to be riots.
Riots, yeah.
Whereas with OJ, they're like, if they convict him guilty, there might be riots. But first, before we get to any of that, we do have Ben Askren, Olympian, multiple-time world champion, lost to Jake Paul. He'll be on a little bit later. However, this was a fight where he was fighting Jake Paul on pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And I've heard of people being out of touch with the youth culture and or urban culture.
Yeah.
But all it was humping and gyrating. And I can't even show you the worst of it, so we'll talk with Ben Askren about it, but I think we have a montage to give you a general idea. It was like 90% this and 10% fighting.
During the fight?
There were no fights.
Right before.
There were very few fights.
I thought, what an odd fighting style that would be.
We have a black
the booty
Kiwis
clap
for 30 minutes, and then So Weedy, and then Something Doggy, and then Justin Bieber, ironically, earned the respect of all Americans in being the least offensive part of that broadcast. Here's a montage just so you have a little idea, and we're trying to keep it family friendly.
Those pants didn't stay on.
Yeah, she took her pants off afterward. And that jacket came up. And that was with the jacket on.
Yeah.
By the way, she could totally be Rachel Dolezalling us. I have no idea.
Who knows?
When she was yelling the N-word, I'm like, I don't think I feel comfortable with this.
No, it's like when Tekashi 6ix9ine says it. You're like, you don't get to do that.
You don't get to do
wait.
this. I am not. Look, I'm not. If you have kids here, I'm not exaggerating. This lady comes out in a mesh bodysuit, and we're going to fact check the trial here. And look, his thing is he doesn't have. I can't recognize him without the turtle shell.
I know.
She comes out wearing a mesh bodysuit. I'm not even talking about Victoria's Secret, Fredericks of Hollywood. I'm talking about like you pull off the side of the road, and it's what used to be a warehouse that says, like Mr. Bindy's Naughty Treats. She's wearing this. She does the twerk. There's a guy, a black gentleman, person of color, colored people, whatever you say, and his catchphrase is, bitch! He just keeps yelling that into the microphone. So she's twerking on his groin. He's going, bitch! Then she stands up, turns to the camera, grabs her butt cheeks with her fingers, and spreads them like a rectal exam. I just wonder, look, and I know everyone has said this from every generation, but can we at least acknowledge, Elvis's hips? I want to hold your hand. Like, we don't know what they're saying. Even back to Salt and Pepper, like Push It Good to lick my hand, give me your busted nut. And then pulling your butt cheeks apart. How are you going to give your kids a curfew? Like, I told you, 8 o'clock. Like, hey, Mom, is this not you spreading your butt cheeks on live television?
Yeah.
I have more evidence, actually.
Well, in fairness, though, Elvis did spread his butt cheeks wide open for Jailhouse Rock, if you remember
that's
correctly.
true.
Yeah, there was a whole shower scene they didn't show.
It's the part that I never love to tell you about, but I think he fared well because he does jujitsu, man.
Yeah. It's empowering,
Where's
Stephen. That's
my
what you're
scarf?
missing. It's empowering.
It's
for women to
empowering.
do
Yeah,
that.
they're going to be the next
Yeah.
Me Too.
Yeah.
What
To
made
be
you
a
think
whore.
that you could do that? Well, I don't know. You told me to play with your genitals without asking, and I took it at face value.
Can you imagine getting that dancing break after you've been working your whole life? You're like, all right, we're just going to all do this in unison. And you're like, so you want me to what?
You want me to fornicate the stage?
That's right.
Yes.
What's she singing about? He's singing about playing with her. And what's he singing about? Busting nuts. Oh. Is there an age restriction? Is there an age restriction on this pay-per-view? No, none at all. Also, Snoop Dogg and Oscar De La Hoya are going to be high as a kite. Oscar De La Hoya, I followed his Olympic career.
I did too.
It's just like he's sitting there and he was so high and so drunk.
Oh, no.
And he's going, go, baby! Go the USSR, baby! The guy was a fighter who was on a Navy ship, the USS FA. So he had no part of it. He's like, USSR, baby! USSR, baby! It's like, oh, my God. So, by the way, you can follow me on Instagram. Louder with Crowder is on Instagram. This is a live show Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern. That's and the best thing you can do is comment. We're going to have some questions here for you today. Let me ask you this. Where do you think it's going to be the crappiest as far as the riots this week? And do you think that there's any scenario where we don't get riots?
What?
If they decide first-degry murder, maybe.
This guy.
But
This
even then,
guy.
they'll be like, yeah, but this is an exception to the rule, so Molotov cocktail. All right.
Yeah.
I always hated Dr. Scholes anyway.
Yeah, I'm going to take Portland. I know that wasn't a question for me to answer, but I'm going to answer anyway. I'm going to take Portland. They've been warming up for a while.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
They've tried to stay in shape for rioting. You can't just go out and riot
Yeah,
randomly.
preseason
You have to
practice.
be ready.
Also, the average temperature of Portland has increased by 1.4 degrees. Not carbon monoxide. Well, technically, it's burning. It's due to all the fires, due to all the arsonry.
They want to keep it warm.
So they're still giving the instructions here, and you guys can let us know what the hashtag is trending as far as the defense. We're going to be live fact-checking it. We have fact-checkers here. But before this, I wanted to talk about something. Brian Stelter was cornered by one of the Project Veritas guys, and I caught something, but it's not what you think.
Okay.
A lot of people, it's not like it's this huge scandal, but something that I think is a bigger scandal. Here you go. See if you spot it first. Here's the clip from Project Veritas with Brian Super Straight Stelter.
Do you think it's going to be just like a lot of fear? Climate.
Yeah, fear sells. Fear sells.
Does fear sell? Is Charlie Chester still employed at CNN?
I feel really bad for you.
Is Charlie Chester still employed at CNN?
I feel really bad for you.
Why do you feel bad for me? We're journalists.
Okay.
Why do you feel bad for me? Are you a journalist? Are you able to report anything that's not directly handed down to...
I report whatever I want.
Yes.
Are you crying? No, I'm not crying. Here's the thing. Why is no one else talking about the fact that Brian Stelter carries a purse? Look, that is a purse. Some people were trying to... That is absolutely
That's a purse.
It's
a man bag. It's a European man bag.
Well, you got to keep your
It's a
CPAP
satchel.
machine in something. Look at that guy. There's no way.
He uses it while he's awake, just for a little pick-me-up.
Yeah.
Need the energy to pay out all this nuisance money.
Yeah.
So this
My
is
brain
absolutely
doesn't
a
get
purse.
oxygen.
Yes. It's absolutely a purse. Some people are trying to argue it's something. No, look. So we are going to conduct. This is really not so much an experiment, but a showcase for you because I stand by this. So now it's time for bringing out Even Brendan.
Purse test, MERS test. Straight.
Yes. All right.
There it is.
Even Brendan is here. So Even Brendan, let's start with the briefcase. Okay. So this is the briefcase. People are trying to say, well, he's carrying a briefcase. You cannot put that in your elbow, like a lady boy. Yeah. Doesn't work. Doesn't work. You do not carry a briefcase in your. First off, no straight man carries anything in the crooks of their elbow.
Nobody. Not even straight women.
Not even straight.
Just gay men do that.
Turn to your side here. Let's see. Yeah, and can you bring up the picture again of Brian Stelter there? Look at the way he's holding it. It's in his elbow.
Very comfortably.
That's not, but let's do it also with a gym bag because I want to go through all of these where some people are saying, well, it could be any of the above. It could be a gym bag. Yeah. That also is not true. But yeah, use the actual strap here with the gym bag because it's a strap that he has. He's not using handles. Put that in the crux of your elbow. Okay, now see.
I think they said he was carrying Jim's bag.
Yes, he was carrying Jim's bag on his way to service. Jim's bag. There you go.
Yeah,
there you go. Look,
no.
Is it a controlled experiment? Not exactly, but it's enough. Brian Stelter, nuisance money, carries a purse. Thank you, Even Brendan. This has been
Purse test, MERS test. Straight.
Up.
He should wear a cloth mask because he does look like he's in the hospital.
He really does, yes. Sir, are you about to pass? No.
He looks like if Tom Hanks was just really dedicated in Philadelphia to gaining weight.
Oh, yes. Do you know AIDS will give you 70 extra pounds?
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's what's in the bag, all his medication.
All right. Okay, so look, they're not talking yet about the trial. They're not doing their closing argument. So let's start with this. Let's set the stage a little bit here. Last night, or 2 nights ago, was this weekend, 60 Minutes. Beacon of news, obviously after Beacon of true news, authoritative. After we saw what happened with DeSantis, they were, basically when they did that, they didn't realize they were spreading their cheeks on live television. This is gonna hurt. They aired a documentary right now on far-right oath keepers. So this is what the left wants you to focus on. Here you go, just to set up this context.
Our guys are very experienced. We have active duty law enforcement in our organization that are helping to train us. We can blend in with our law enforcement. In fact, in a lot of cases, our training is much more advanced because of our military backgrounds. There's nothing I love more than my AR-15 and my chainsaw, and I don't know which one I like more.
Jim Arroyo invited us to a meeting to see for ourselves. The crowd, mostly retirees, meet twice a month.
Feel how warm that is?
To talk about how to survive disasters like forest fires.
These things are great.
Attacks on the power grid and civil war.
So that's why we talk about civil unrest, civil war. It's not a joke. This can happen, and we need to be ready for it.
I don't think they know, but they just inadvertently made the Oath Keepers seem entirely reasonable.
Yeah, that seems like my dad's friends.
Look, forest fires. Well, those have happened. California. Disasters. Well, we've had Hurricane Harvey. We've had disasters. Civil unrest. $2 billion in damages. Thousands of arrests. It's like, so it sounds to me like they're just saying, you know what, maybe keep your crap together. But they want you to fear the right-wing militia, right? They want you to fear the right-wing extremists. Meanwhile, this weekend, Portland has been burning down. Here's just a brief montage. Mostly peaceful.
The building's mostly not on fire.
I would say it's mostly not peaceful. I hate you all.
I just how do you let them get that much laneage?
I know.
I know that's not a word, but just, put a push bumper on your cop car. Something. Do something at that point. You know what they're going to do. They're going to burn stuff down. And here's something else, too. I want to be clear about something. Back the blue. Look, I think that conservatives need to acknowledge, we've been talking about this, and sometimes people get mad when you say, look, not all police officers are corruption-free. We know this, particularly when you look at their support and they're unwilling to address the actual extremists who are burning towns down. So this weekend, there was a guy named Larry McFarland, okay? He fired his shotgun into the sky. So he took out a shotgun, pointed at the crowd of people.
President's advice.
Fired it into the sky. Yeah, Joe Biden's advice, except it was supposed to be on your porch.
Oh, right.
And then your dog bites you.
Yeah.
You not like that gunshot? Oh, Major!
And then you fall up the stairs and shit your pants.
Simultaneously.
And then Jill turns on the microwave and you forget where you are for a few seconds. It's that plate right here because just my hair ain't going to look right. And then the media referred to the rioters as anti-police protesters in that story. He was arrested, charged with unlawful use of a weapon. Here's something else, too. Really quickly, let me see what they're talking about on CNN, and then I want to get to Maxine Waters. Is this their closing argument?
Looks like.
Please, the court.
Yeah.
Come on. That's not a very good one.
Members of the jury. His name
is Robert Paulson.
Was George Perry Floyd Jr. And he was born on October 14, 1973.
Saint.
In Fayetteville, North Carolina. To his parents, George Floyd Sr. and Larcinia Jones Floyd.
Is he going to have TLC come out? Say my name, say my name.
Well, two of the three of them.
Yeah.
You met George Floyd's brother, Philonis, and you heard all about Sissy Floyd. She was George Floyd's mom. She was the mom of the house. She was the mom of the neighborhood.
I don't want no scrub.
And you heard about the special bond.
You don't get no love from me.
No.
That
Hanging out the passenger
Floyd
side of his best
shared.
friend's ride.
Really quickly, let me just show you something real before we go to this, because right now he's just setting it up.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about violence in the streets, and I'm telling you, everyone be ready. Be ready to protect your family. I'm not talking about going out and waging any violence yourself, but be ready to protect your house and home. Because Maxine Waters and the left, they have been actively encouraging violence. I don't mean in veiled terms.
Yeah.
I mean in blatant terms. This happened this week, and Maxine Waters in Minnesota talking about what protesters should do. This is what you need to be ready for. They're trying to intimidate the jury. This is clip C.
Fight for justice, but I am very hopeful, and I hope that we're going to get a verdict that will say guilty, guilty, guilty. And if we don't, we cannot go away.
And not just manslaughter, right? I mean...
Oh, no, not manslaughter. No. This is guilty for murder. I don't know whether it's in the first degree, but as far as I'm concerned, it's first degree murder.
Congresswoman, what happens if we do not get what you just told? What should the people do? What should protesters on the street do?
I didn't hear you.
What happens? What should protesters
Write
do?
their local representative.
Well, we got to stay on the street, and we've got to get more active. We've got to get more confrontational. We've got to make sure that they know that we mean business.
And by the way, only a couple hours later, there was a drive-by shooting in Minnesota on National Guard police. Here you go. Here's a quick clip.
Well, National Guard troops providing security for residents in the area of Penn Avenue and Broadway in Minneapolis this morning were shot at 4:19 a.m.
Looks like a dead
The Guard
Raggedy
says
Ann
the
doll.
gunshots came from a white SUV towards a Minnesota National Guard and Minneapolis
Well, her house
police
is on
team
fire. How would
providing
you look?
neighborhood security in that area. The two National Guard troops suffered minor injuries. One National Guard member had to go to a hospital for treatment of lacerations from shattered glass.
And final thing I want to show before we go here to the closing arguments and then cover it live. This is not the first time. Look, if Donald Trump was kicked off of all big tech platforms and people tried to say that he incited violence, Maxine Waters needs to be federally charged and impeached. Because this is not the first time that this has happened. Here's just a few of her greatest hits, Clippy.
And we fight. We fight like hell. And if
Oh,
you
wait,
don't
sorry.
fight
I'm
like
sorry.
hell,
I meant
people are gonna
montage.
turn on them.
There you
They're
go.
going to protest. They're going to absolutely harass them until they decide that they're going to tell the president, no, I can't hang with you.
Harass them, she said.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
Oh, that's to a nice dinner.
Nice. They have protesters taking up at their house. He's saying no peace, no sleep. You see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome.
That sounds familiar. You're not. Your kind's not welcome around here.
Oh,
yeah.
And people wonder why Gina Carano compared the saying, "Hey, look, she didn't compare being Republican to being a Jew in the Holocaust."
Nope.
She said, "How did it start? They got their fellow citizens to tell on them, to snitch on them, to round them up for the government." That's what she was talking about. Now, if Donald Trump gets in trouble for saying "fight like hell" and then telling them to protest peacefully, keep in mind too, when Donald Trump said that, that was a group of hundreds of thousands of people. There had never been a massive, violent right-wing protest. It didn't exist. Maxine Waters was amidst the city's burning and said, more confrontational. Tell them they're not welcome. This was after billions of dollars in damages and dozens of people killed and hundreds of officer casualties. Maxine Waters has seen the violence, has seen the carnage, and has encouraged it. And even worse, none of the other Democrats have said anything. They've all fallen silent because they want this jury right now to convict. They are trying to, wherever you line up, what we do have to agree upon is in this justice system, you cannot have coercion with what's supposed to be an independent jury. Okay, let's go to these closing arguments.
A grown man crying out for his mother. A human
No, he was
being.
crying out for his cracked out girlfriend, Mama. That's how she was listed in his cell phone, by the way.
And in that time,
doesn't mean it's less sad. It just means that
place,
he right now knowingly lied.
while he was surrounded in life
A lawyer?
by people he knew, he faces
No.
like
What's this world coming to? Honestly,
There
this
was
all
no one there he knew.
sucks.
He was surrounded by strangers. Strangers, all of them. 9 minutes and 29
Well, what,
seconds.
like every
He's
COVID
surrounded by
patient this year?
strangers,
Right, without any of their loved ones.
Not a familiar
Yeah.
face to say his final words. But he did say them to someone. He said them to someone who he did not know by name, but he knew him from the uniform he wore and the badge he wore.
Hey, by the way, this is
And he
also
called
false
him Mr.
because,
Officer.
remember, they tried to say that they worked at the same club together and that
Mr.
Derek Chauvin was out to get him.
Mr.
Remember? Was
Officer
racially motivated because they worked security at the same
called
club, and now
him
they're saying he didn't know anyone?
Oh.
Didn't know him, he called him officer?
With Mr.
Which was it?
Officer.
Which is it?
George Floyd's final words on May 25, 2020 were, "Please, I can't breathe."
Okay, let's bring that clip that we have. We have a clip, I don't know which clip it is, of him saying that he couldn't breathe when he was back in the car. I believe that was, hold on a second. Can someone tell me which...
looking it up.
Can someone tell me which clip that is?
He said it several times too, right before going to the ground.
Yeah, clip P. Clip P, he was saying long before he went to the ground. He was saying it before he had made it to the ground. He was saying it in the car while getting in the car. Clip P.
Floyd maintained or stated that he could not breathe while in the prone position.
That is correct, sir.
He stated that before ever being in the prone position as well, correct?
That is correct, sir.
Several times, correct?
That is correct, sir.
At that point, when he stated that he can't breathe and he's in the back seat of the car, there was no one on his back, right?
That is correct, sir.
And do you know whether at that point there's any evidence to suggest that there was a respiratory depressant such as fentanyl on board in his system?
No, sir.
So again, just letting you know, this false narrative. Called for his mother. No, he didn't. Called for his girlfriend, who would do drugs with him. And his last words were his words leading up until his request to be put on the ground. That matters. That changes context.
On that day, no courage was required. All that was required was a little compassion.
You gonna cry?
None was shown.
Sorry, I'll take it serious.
On that day.
Don't do that, Dave.
I just say he looks like he's
George
gonna
Floyd
cry.
said, "I'm
And
not
he's got a
crying."
lawyer. You know, he doesn't cry.
This was a call about a counterfeit $20 bill.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a call about a $20 counterfeit bill. It was a call because he gave a $20 counterfeit bill. It was a kid at the shop who could see that he was likely high out of his mind, knew it was a counterfeit $20 bill, was intimidated, and kindly approached George Floyd 2 times to either give him back the pack of cigarettes or the 20, in which scenario George Floyd bullied the kid and brushed him off. And so the kid, who felt guilty for calling the cops, not wanting to lose an hour of his pay, said, look, this guy is giving out counterfeit $20 bills. That's what happened. That's what happened. It wasn't just a counterfeit 20. He was bullying a kid, and he had several opportunities to make it right.
He continued to push him down, to grind into him.
I do agree with you there. And the first time that they went in with a counterfeit 20, his friend, if it was about a counterfeit 20, the cops would have been called then.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't that. At that point, the kid is losing $40 of his pay.
Yeah, it's not, yeah.
This assault. When he was unable to speak, the defendant continued. When he was unable to breathe, the defendant continued beyond the point that he had a pulse. Beyond the point that he had a pulse, the defendant continued this assault. 9 minutes and 29 seconds. When the ambulance arrived, the ambulance was here, and the defendant continued. He stayed on top of him. He would not get up. He would not let up. He stayed on him, grinding into him, continuing to twist his fingers.
Now he's talking about the fight.
Down. He had no pulse.
No, that's not true. He stayed on him, restraining him until he could hand him over to the paramedics.
Yeah.
That's what you do. Paramedics are not trained to restrain somebody who's that large and has a history of violence.
Yeah.
What are you just supposed to do? Wait, like, oh, paramedics are here. All right, get up. Then you end up like the scenario with the female cop yelling, taser, taser, taser. The guy's going, oh, this is a weak female who has no business being on the force. Here's my chance for a break. What do you think they're going to do with paramedics who have no training in subduing an assailant?
Finally, the defendant got up.
That woman has a nice briefcase.
Yes.
Mr. Floyd onto that gurney, and you saw
Stelter's eyeing it.
Yes.
the way he was not. There was
Stelter
nothing
case.
there. His head.
Is she a
had to be
stenographer?
held to prevent it from falling to the ground. He was completely limp. The defendant had to know that. He was there. He was on top of him. And he was on top of him. On top of him. Sometimes you ask for the truth, sometimes you insist
rather the
on it.
officer be beneath him?
Yeah.
But where's an officer supposed to be when waiting for paramedics?
The officer was like
Spooning?
missionary. Ready to get it.
The medical examiner would find the cause of George Floyd's death to be cardiopulmonary arrest, complicating law enforcement subdual, restraint, and neck compression. Well, what you saw the defendant and the other officers doing to George Floyd caused his death. The medical examiner ruled the death a homicide.
Again, we've been really clear about this. I don't even have this in front of me. For people who haven't been following this and you don't know, if you're just tuning into this for the first time, they have to rule it something as far as a cause of death. Homicide, it's not a criminal term. It means that it was a death that involved someone else there.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean homicide in the way that you know it to be. And they actually had the witnesses testify, and they were very clear about that. So they know right now they're throwing this out. So people go, ooh, homicide. Yep. I watched CSI Miami. Yeah, I know what I'm talking about. It's murder. No, homicide means he died in the presence of someone else. Even if it was a drug overdose and the officer had him in the back of the car, that's a homicide.
Yeah, that's why I said don't say it.
Yeah, I know.
A second ago, and then.
But he said it.
Doing something.
Wasn't hearing you.
Like this. Remember, in jury selection, and we talked about bias, and we talked
There's
about
the shell
setting
mask.
biases and preconceived notions behind.
Did they show it again?
Well,
The
imagining
attorney,
a
the other
police
attorney.
officer committing a crime.
This is like Where's
might be
Waldo,
the
but
most
with a
difficult
dumb shell
thing
mask.
You have to set aside because that's just not the way we think of police officers.
Are you hiding in a
We
pond
trust
with
the
box
police.
turtles? It
We
makes it
trust
hard
the
to
police
find
to
you,
help
Waldo.
We believe the police are going to respond to our call for help. We
I poured
believe they're going
chemicals
to
on
listen to
myself, and I'm not a mutant. I've just done a lot of damage to my
And
body.
This is strong. This runs deep. It's difficult to set this aside. I want you to consider that even after, with the bystanders, after they saw what they saw, after they saw this shocking display of abuse of police power and a man murdered in front of them, Genevieve Hansen, she called the police. Donald Williams, he saw this. You heard him. He testified. He called the police. A 9-year-old. Judea. What did she suggest? We need to call the police on the police. That's our expectation. Even after seeing this, even after witnessing this, our expectation is that the police are going to help.
Well, hold on a second. Isn't that predicated on the fact that the police are going to help victims, not the criminals? So in this case, let's be clear. Victim was a kid who had 2 counterfeit 20s who called the cops, just wanted it to be, and then he had an unruly, super, super high, violent George Floyd. Just like when we talk about Jacob Blake. To protect us, to protect the woman who was sexually assaulted, who called the cops because he violated a restraining order, we've lost. This is how you end up with a Dirty Harry or a Charles Bronson. You end up with a scenario where the police, right, they've had their teeth taken out, they've been defunded, and you end up where the society says we want a cop who does things his own way because you see skyrocketing crime like we're seeing right now. Yeah. Oh, so it's the police's job to take care of the assailant before the victim. And this is how they change it. It's no, look, George Floyd had a long rap sheet. He had a long rap sheet of being violent. He had been arrested before multiple times. He had spent time in prison. He was committing a crime. He bullied a kid. And then at that point, they were very nice with him initially, telling him to get in the car, freaking out, and now they have to deal with an assailant. They weren't called because George Floyd was the victim. Now, if they'd have come in and kneeled on the kid and roughed him up, that would be different. That's not what happened in this scenario. That's not what happened with Jacob Blake. That's not what happened. I mean, you can go down the list. It's never what happens. Almost all of these scenarios involve officers dealing with the committer of crime, and then it gets complicated. We need to keep that in mind. Because doesn't mean that anyone deserves to die, just to be clear. George Floyd did not deserve to die, okay? Jacob Blake, I would argue at that point, look, you're reaching for a knife, kind of dude deserved to die at that point. However, anytime you're committing a crime and you actively and violently resist arrest, you are consciously forfeiting your right to live because you now understand that the odds of a complication go up.
Yeah.
And that's something we need to be teaching everybody watching, is if you commit a crime, and you actively resist arrest, which is you're now committing another crime, usually a violent crime, right? If you're resisting arrest, you forfeit your right to live in the sense that you have to accept the ramifications of those actions. It shouldn't happen, but accidents happen.
Yeah. And if you disagree with that, you're saying that the officer doesn't have a right to go home to their family that night.
Exactly.
That's what you're telling them.
All right, let's go back to this professional liar
who staffed the training center, and they told you, we don't train this.
That's not true.
That's a lie.
That's not true. Can someone bring that up? We have the flyer. I don't know if we have the video too.
There it is.
Yep.
There you go. There's a flyer.
Restraint technique.
Maximal restraint technique.
Was used over 200 times.
Yep.
I think, what was it, the year before?
Yep.
So.
All of the public, all of the human beings.
Matter of fact, we have clip R. Use of force expert Barry Broad brought up that he was justified in his restraint. Again, because you can find it. It's not even something that's like one of those hidden techniques like Steven Seagal, like, oh, this is the technique that I don't teach because it's too dangerous. They pass it out. You never see it. The camera can't register it.
It involves cake and me in the bathroom. I'll be back.
A tank and puppet.
You ever seen Tub Girl? It's Tub Me.
It's one boy, one big cup of ice cream.
Clip R. This is also confirmation of what we're talking about.
Now, based upon your training and experience and your expertise in the use of force matters,
what are your 11 herbs and spices?
That have been provided to you, have you formed opinions in this particular case to a reasonable degree of professional certainty?
I have.
And can you just briefly overview your opinions in this particular case?
I felt that Derek Chauvin was justified and was acting with objective reasonableness, following Minneapolis Police Department policy and current standards of law enforcement in his interactions with Mr. Floyd. So it's easy to sit and judge in an office on an officer's conduct. It's more of a challenge to, again, put yourself in the officer's shoes to try to make an evaluation through what they're feeling, what they're sensing, the fear they have, and then make a determination.
Also, really quick, you guys can bring it up. This restraint was used, 200-something times since 2016 or 2019? Mm-hmm. So it's been used hundreds of times to act as though this is an outlier. It's not. It's not. It's how they train police. It's been used hundreds of times, just to be clear. If you have a problem with it, then your problem is with the police department. It's with bad police training. And I have that problem, too.
Yeah.
It's not with Derek Chauvin. All right, let's continue and bring up that source when you can. Is there a hashtag right now going out with this thing? Does anyone know? I would got to imagine people are still watching it on Twitter and Instagram.
And assault. I'm going to discuss the law with you in a bit here. And explain, the court's already provided you some instructions on second-degree murder, and you know, done in the laws of this state,
237 times.
237 times.
A certain level of assault,
rendered 44 people unconscious, they claim.
And a person dies as a result of your assault, you're guilty of murder. It's as simple as that.
No, it's
not.
not.
What the defendant did here was a straight-up felony assault. This was not policing. It was unnecessary. It was gratuitous, it was disproportionate, and he did it on purpose.
What?
No question.
On purpose? How do you know that?
He's pushing for first-degree murder. This is laying the trap right now, where if people, and any reasonable person goes, well, look, come on, this wasn't on purpose. This wasn't premeditated murder. They now have this backrest. They now have this backdrop of, oh, but wait a second, he did it on purpose. So anything other than first-degree murder, riot.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Is not that people have different opinions. It's the irresponsibility of people saying either it's first-degree murder or the system is broken and everything is racist. Riot.
Right. Well, I don't even think first degree is charged in this. I think it's just
it was reduced.
It's been reduced. That's the problem. Is he's going for something that he actually can't be convicted of.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with the woman. What's her name? We just saw.
Taser.
Maxine Waters.
Oh,
Maxine Waters.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's the problem as well. Is she's stirring people up, knowing that the end result is not going to be that.
Yeah. Just like the end result of her wig. Sometimes the parts on the left or the right.
Easy, Bill O'Reilly.
She puts it on backwards sometimes in the back. In the front.
Just looking out for the folks.
All I'm trying to say.
Keep it pithy.
All right.
James Brown.
Let's go back to this guy.
Well, this all started over a call of an alleged counterfeit $20 bill.
Not alleged.
Not alleged.
An actual one.
I didn't realize that lawyers are, I guess during closing arguments, they're allowed to just lie completely without objections. On purpose, alleged, this is felony assault.
Yeah.
This is just, this would have never been allowed in the questioning.
Called out for his mom. No.
Oh, yeah, that's why they get the closing arguments. It's all, lies. In a Steve Harvey suit.
Everything that you remember, I was going to say a little bit more of a Don Cherry.
It's something there, yeah.
And in this courtroom, you can't go out of bounds. This is just
It's made by Fat Farm. Do you like it? Can I pull it off? Okay, anyway, so he's on the ground.
Be better. The kind of ego-based pride. But the defendant was not going to be told what to do. He was not going to let these bystanders tell him what to do.
He
was
did
gonna
get
do
told what to do.
he
Put me on the ground. Okay, I'll put you on the ground.
I guess it's all he's saying. He wasn't going to be.
Good point,
he wasn't going to be told what to do by bystanders. Well, what do you mean? Which instruction? The "I'll fuck you up" that one from the bystanders? I mean, I just like the act as though no, police are not supposed to acquiesce to bystanders. That's not ego. It'd be like me right now going, well, I guess, instead of this, I'm going to do a no spin zone and go to O'Reilly because people are like, someone says, I want you to do Bill O'Reilly. No, he sucks, and I don't want him to touch me.
And he will.
Again, yeah.
Yes, he will. He's a very handsy man who writes books about God.
Oh, yeah, that's
And
true.
assassinating Jesus.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
JFK.
He should write his own Killing My Career.
Yes.
How to do dressed for court like it was
You also
the most
can tell that he
important
wrote them at the same time with his ghostwriter because the thief on the cross was Lee Harvey Oswald. That was a weird stopover in an airport. Lee Harvey Oswald.
I don't think Jack Ruby shot Pontius Pilate.
Pontius!
I'm not trying to win. I'm not trying to win. I'm scared. But the defendant was trying to win. He wasn't going to be told what to do. He wasn't going to take a challenge to his authority. He was trying to win. And George Floyd paid for it with his life.
I guess a win is an arrest.
Regardless of anything that I've said, though, that's not what happened. It could be he could be responsible for his death. I've always said that, and I stand by that. But he wasn't trying to win anything.
No,
there was just if he was trying to he would just let him go. If it was a contest, if he was trying to win anything, it would be like, all right, guys, just.
You shouldn't be able to lie to jurors like that. Like, what evidence do you have that he was trying to win? Did he smirk while the crowd was like, ha, look, he's staying down?
As a matter of fact, he turned over to his female partner who was not there, and she said, there's one thing I want you to do for me. He said, what? She said, come here. He said, what? She said, come here. Win. And then he heard a bell going, dong, 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 dong. This all happened. I would refer you to the stenographer. And the jury's like, this is a lie? He's like, well, it's closing statement. So
I'll say what I want.
Just remember.
Doesn't this guy look like a character actor playing a lawyer?
Yeah.
Like, where are the Ghostbusters? I had them committed.
He looks like he'd be prosecuting the Ghostbusters. The Ghostbusters are a menace to this, and then something comes in and he learns his lesson. Wah! Maybe falls into a cake. Oh!
The Scoleri brothers.
Yeah, oh no!
All right, hold on. I need to hear what bullshit comes next.
Back to the car. He's with his friends, and there's a tap at the window. He looks to his left and is startled. This is what he sees.
No. Someone bring up that clip. Let's bring up that clip. He did not just walk up with his gun. That was after he refused to show his hands. You know what? Before we bring that clip, let's bring up the clip of him doing this before. Just so you know, George Floyd has a long and storied history of resisting. And by the way, you're already resisting arrest if you don't show your hands.
Yeah.
So this is the previous clip of George Floyd being arrested while we find this one. That is not how that started, and that matters. Clip.
Hey!
Look, see, there's no gun. Right now, he's not showing his hands. Right there. Boom,
hands where I
gun,
can
glove compartment.
see
Cops
'em.
have been shot for less. Hands
Hey,
are up.
Put them up on the dash. Put them on the dash.
Now he's putting them below again.
I'm not going to shoot you. Put your hands on the dash.
I'm not going to shoot
Put
you.
your hands on the dash. The last time I'm going to tell you that. It's simple.
Isn't this a different clip, though?
You know, this is an arrest before, and then we're going to bring up the arrest now. They want you to think that the cop walked up with a gun.
Yeah.
No, that's not how it happened. This is a guy whose MO is actively resisting arrest by not showing his hands. And keep in mind, he's a violent serial felon.
Don't you jerk away from me.
All right, that's enough of that clip. And let me know when we have the actual clip of the arrest. We should have it from our previous show maps. They want you to, he's pulling it. Let's bring back up Cena. They want you to think that the guy walked like it was GoldenEye,
tapping with his
first-person
gun.
shooter tapping
Yeah.
with his gun. Hey, tap, bang! Oh gosh, that startled me. Can you open the window, sir? No, the cop walked up and told him, "I am not going to shoot you. Put your hands on the dash." Or at that point, I think since he was the driver's side, hands on the wheel.
Yep.
That
Here-
is so misleading. Do we have it? All right, here's the actual clip. See? Nightstick.
Or flashlight, sorry.
Let me see your hands.
See? No gun in his hand. Let me see your hands.
Stay in the car. Let me see your other hand.
I'm sorry.
Let me see your other hand.
Please,
both hands.
Do nothing.
Put your
Now he brings out the gun when he can't see the other hand, which could be reaching.
Yep.
Put your hand up there.
Still not complying.
And then he says, "I'm not going to shoot you. I'm not going to shoot you," which I almost think police officers shouldn't say.
Right. You should leave that on the
It
table.
should be, "I'm
Be a
probably
mystery.
not going to shoot you, but maybe."
If you
We'll
have
see.
If you have a gun and you pull it on me, if you try to kill me, I will shoot you.
Yeah,
I'm already thinking about it.
As a matter of
going
fact,
around.
I think police policy should be: you aim the gun at them and you say, "Don't worry, the safety's off." Oh shit, that should be the policy, just to put the fear of God in them a little bit. All right, let's go back to this liar.
They take him over to the car. George Floyd is a big guy. Right? You can see here, I mean, he's almost as big as Officer Lane.
He's bigger.
Yeah.
He's a big person. The back of the squad car is not.
Oh, come on.
That's what they wanted him to
Wait,
get.
hold
Come
on. What?
on.
Oh,
And to
what?
George Floyd,
It's a full-size SUV. It's not even a crossover.
He got out of an SUV.
It's the new Explorer. It's enormous.
It just makes common sense.
try to explain.
He's 223 pounds.
And
He's not
even though
Goliath.
these
Aren't there other
police-
cars there that are smaller? Like,
Yeah.
didn't they pick the big one?
They
Yes.
did.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Get out of a smaller
look how-
car.
All right, hold on. I want to hear him justify now that he required being on the ground, where it was far more comfortable than the back of a full-size Expedition.
He just wasn't able to bring himself to do it.
What?
That's
He
like
wasn't able to
that's
bring
like a
himself to
limo pulling up for you, and instead of being like, no, just roll that dumpster over, and I'm going to ride in that.
Here's the excuse that he just gave. He just couldn't bring himself to do it. So
If
you
a
get to just
limo,
not
yeah.
get in a cop car when you're under arrest. I'm sorry, officer. I just can't bring myself to do it.
I can't.
No, look at how tiny that thing is. It looks like Ryan Reynolds' Buried Alive film.
Yes.
The ability to get in the car. He's explaining himself repeatedly. And
He's
you can
out of
see
his
this
mind.
is where
Out
the
of his
defendant
mind.
and Officer Tao start coming into the scene. Right? And we'll look at
Do you
what
mean,
they
by
saw.
the way, explaining himself, saying he can't breathe right now? There? Is that explaining himself? He's saying he can't breathe?
19-year
Because, again, that would imply that there are breathing complications that have nothing to do
With Chauvin.
with Chauvin.
training.
Not saying it helped. Saying he was already using it, so you can't trust. Everything that came out of George Floyd's mouth was a lie in that altercation, just to be clear. And everything this lawyer has said, and I'm not saying it's incorrect, it is a lie. George Floyd said, "I didn't do nothing." Yes, you did. Said, "I'm not that kind of guy." Yes, you are. "My mom just died." No, she didn't. "I can't breathe." Yes, you can. "I didn't do any drugs." Yes, you did. Okay? This guy just said, called out for his mother. No, he didn't. Called out for his girlfriend. He just said, couldn't fit in the back of the, it's very small. Nope. That's not true. He said, this is how the officer approached him. Showed a picture of a gun. That's not true. This is not how the police force is trained to restrain people. That's not true. Everything George Floyd said was a lie. Everything this lawyer has said thus far is a lie. And I'm not saying that they don't have a case. But he's not going with the case because the witnesses never really went that well for the prosecution, including their own witnesses.
But they pulled him out of a small car. Does nobody see this? That's driving me nuts. It's a terrible defense.
Horrible.
We pulled him out of a tiny clown car. There's room for many people in there. We all know it. It's magic.
They could fit Shaquille O'Neal in the back of that police car.
Of course.
Okay? Come on.
That's not even a good...
He just couldn't bring himself to do it.
Those wounds still right there on the surface.
Unbelievable.
Emotion.
I don't doubt that he had issues and stuff.
A divorce.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Completely.
Bad
Speedball
financial.
it's sad. It's terribly sad.
Mental illness. Mental health issues. Like drug and alcohol abuse.
Being locked inside
All
for
of
a
those
year.
things can cause
Hope being taken away
to
from you.
not
Running out of options.
resist, but just not be able to bring themselves to comply.
Wait, what?
At that moment, at that time.
That's
And
called
this is
resisting.
That's not an excuse.
There is no new definition of resisting arrest that you can come up with. He just couldn't bring himself to comply.
Remember, Chief Arredondo took the stand. He testified. He testified.
I guess that's a
that
defense.
they have
That's what he's saying.
it.
You know, listen, I committed a crime and they wanted to arrest me, but I couldn't bring myself to allow myself to be arrested myself.
I had a divorce.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. You're free to go.
Is that a grown-up thing to do?
We didn't know that. I mean, thanks for telling us.
I do wish during one of my arrests I could have been like, my parents are divorced. They'd be like, no, they're not. I'd be like, yeah, but, spiritually they are. They don't get along. Can I go now?
They're dead to each other.
They should ask every single perp, Dave, can you bring yourself to get in the back of this full-size SUV? You could be like, it's not roomy enough. They're like, come on, you're not
Come
that
on,
large.
Dave. Look at you. You can get in there. You can get in the glove
can not
box,
only
you
get in
little
there,
man.
You'll get in there and your legs will be dangling like the Oscar Mayer commercial.
Wouldn't look
My
at the
baloney
signs
has a first name, then I spell I can't breathe.
he had prepared for. And a reasonable officer in the defendant's place, with all his training and all his experience, including that 40-hour crisis intervention course and a subsequent refresher course, should have known that and should have recognized it. Floyd was trying to get into the car. He was trying to work up the courage. He said he'd count to 3. But he just couldn't do it.
I care!
Well, it's not about working up the courage to be arrested.
His argument here should be the cop should have completely disregarded George Floyd's feelings and shoved him in the back of that car and kept him there until he was drawing lines on the wall like the Count of Monte Cristo. He should have been Edmund Dantes in the back of that car. That's what they should be saying. But right now, they're making the case against themselves, saying he couldn't get in the back of the car. Okay, so he had to go on the ground. He shouldn't be on the ground. So you're saying he should just go free when he commits a crime. This is a horrible argument.
And that's largely been my point the whole time, is put him in the back, no matter what, get him out of there. I believe he would still be alive. That's the only reason why this guy may be, he may be partially responsible, but that's a large part, is you have to get him in there. You have to get him out of there. That's just my opinion, but I think I'm right, seeing as he's dead.
Right. Well, you know what? Tomato, tomato. Let's turn this up so we can hear them.
Oh, Lord.
So they don't listen. They just shove him into the car.
They shove him, and then they do listen and take him out. And that's the problem. He should have been stuffed in that car and kept in that car with the child lock on. Look, this is my question. This is your question ultimately to the left. And it's the same question with the rioters and the Maxine Waters. It's like, okay, all right, committed a crime. What do we do? Well, you arrest him. We need better training. Okay, tries to de-escalate. George Floyd doesn't show his hands. What do? Okay, you bring him back. Then you bring him back, and now he doesn't want to get in the car. What do? Well, they wouldn't listen to him. Okay, so what do? Well, then you don't put him in the car. Okay, so he requests to go on the ground. What do? Well, then you restrain. Then he says he doesn't want to be restrained. What do? At a certain point, you've got to start adulting, sweetheart. At a certain point, you either accept that the police have the authority to arrest people, or they don't. This guy seems to be implying that you can't do anything a criminal doesn't like.
Yeah, basically.
Same thing with Maxine Waters. Okay, if it's not guilty, what do? We riot. Okay, if it's manslaughter, what do? We riot. If it's second degree, what do? We riot.
If it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
We riot. Oh, you're getting it.
Basically. If there's a mean pair of dunks in that window, what do? Well, we riot.
Well, they're
obviously,
free.
I mean,
all right, here they're going to show this clip again of God.
On the ground.
Again,
I really hate watching this.
This is the result of him refusing to get in the car, which you just said was a problem. They didn't listen to him. They should not have listened to him. They should have shoved him in the car, period. All right.
There. 4 officers. And what did George Floyd say once they pulled him out of the car?
By request.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, a reasonable officer in the defendant's position at that time should have recognized and understood he wasn't trying to escape. He wasn't trying to punch anyone,
by the way,
stab
he
anyone.
kicked them. Clip in. He actively kicked a cop.
Kicked his leg.
And could you describe that kick and how that might be interpreted by a reasonable police officer?
Yes, so the officers were still attempting to control Mr. Floyd at the time, and as they were trying to place him down in the prone position, I believe one of the officers was attempting to control his legs, and Mr. Floyd kicked their arms away in an attempt to try to possibly break free from the officer's grasp.
Oh, but then after that, he said thank you. After he kicked them and they got him down on the ground by request, he said thank you. By the way, little known fact, they can't arrest you if you say pretty please.
True.
Cherry on top.
Was that Cedric the Entertainer's brother,
Yes,
Cedric
it
the
was.
Explainer?
It was Sedgwick.
Sedgwick.
He's from
Here is Sedgwick.
Sedgwick. Don't count your tips in public, Sedgwick. Sedgwick. All right, hold on. We gotta listen. Hold that thought. I'm sure it's hilarious, but right now I'm angry at this Don Cherry suited piece of shit.
Lungs to expand and take in air so they can breathe. That is a step that protects against the known danger of positional asphyxia. And they have him there. He's right there. So then what happens after? They take him incredibly out of the recovery position and prone him on the ground. For what? The prone position is a transitory position. It's a position you use to secure someone in handcuffs, and when you're done with that, you immediately roll them on their side.
It's also a position they use when people have COVID to assist with their breathing.
Time out. It is a transitional position to where? What is the ultimate goal? Handcuffs. They already had him in handcuffs. The next thing, roll him, put him on his feet, put him in the car. They just tried that.
Right.
What would you like them to transition to?
They have to wait for the paramedics.
They were waiting for people because this guy was high out of his mind.
Did you call timeout like Zach Morris?
Yes. I did. I'm sorry, it just pisses me off.
No,
by the way,
when I get angry, I quote Saved by the Bell.
By the way, also a little known fact that officers, if you just want to get a mass arrest, just walk into the North Ward in St. Louis and yell, "Oh, the oxen free!" Shit.
Oh man,
You got me.
You got me.
Honor system, man.
I was hiding in the dryer.
System.
There's this idea that he should have been, and I can see it honestly, but like you sit him down, you calm him down, that sort of thing. I get that's the idea, and I think that there is.
They did though. Before they put him in the car, they had him up against a wall, saying, "Calm down."
Right.
That's where they asked him, "Are you on something?" No. He had minutes. He had minutes before they even tried to put him in the car.
Yeah.
And then he had minutes where they tried to put him, where he had to go on the ground after they kicked him.
My goal.
I don't know how. I guess, and I don't know how long it has to be. Does it need to be 20 minutes?
I don't either. That's my point. I'm asking questions.
No, I know, but I'm just saying he did have minutes where he was up against the wall and saying, "Hey man, calm down. Are you on anything? Oh, what's going on? Do you have any issues?" Right? They were asking him that up against the wall.
I'll roll down the window.
And then he said, "I'll roll down the window. Calm down." I don't know. Again, we can all get to the point of where he's on the ground, but that's by request. Up until that point, I don't think they could have been more empathetic. That's where I differ with a lot of people. I really can't think of a more empathetic police officer than saying, "Hey man, are you on anything? What's going on? All right, we're going to get you in the back of this car. Okay, hey, no, look, I'm going to stay with you. I'm going to put the air conditioning on. I'm going to open the window, get in the car." I don't expect that.
Yeah. I don't know what they were supposed to do. And if he couldn't bring himself to get in the car the first time, your lawyer, you just said this. Do you think magically the second time he's going to? What's the end result? He's never going to get in the car.
The problem is if you ask him, "What are you on?" you're not going to get an answer because it's then a further charge. So there has to be some, and I mean, I hate to say it, but there has to be something that said, like, this is to save your life. We need to know if you're on something so we can take you out of restraints. Whatever it is, not saying that they need to do that.
Right.
I'm just saying that would be something that would. I don't. It's too hard to do.
Well, it wouldn't change.
There's
it.
no
The guy still
realistic
wouldn't
way to
believe
do it because you're not going to admit to a crime while you're being arrested.
Right. And
That's just the reality.
And certainly not if you've committed several violent crimes, like robbing a woman in front of her kids in her house. I mean, like this is not a guy. This is also something you need to. Can you also agree here too with the George Floyd, Eddie Haskling a little bit? Okay, the kind of guy who's already stepped over the line of robbing a woman at gunpoint, scoping out a woman who's alone with her toddler in the house, robbing her at gunpoint, roughing her up, and then when an officer, you're acting like Michael Clark Duncan. Yes, sir. No, sir. Could you leave the light on, sir? It's like, come on, look. You just brushed a kid off after giving him a counterfeit 20, and he really nicely just said, "Man, come on, they're going to take it out of my pay."
Before you arrest me, can I have some of your wife's cornbread?
Hey, so Austin in the edit bay, he said we missed this. The prosecutor said, "Believe your eyes, what you saw." But the problem is, people aren't seeing the full tape. They're not seeing the full context. They're seeing what the prosecution wants them to see, which is all bullshit. As
a matter of fact, a perfect example of that is here's a witness who is saying that George Floyd, this is clip I, never said, I never heard him say, "I ate too many drugs." And him being presented with something that he couldn't possibly have heard from their smartphone amidst yelling of how you would F the officer up if you were in that situation. So this is a perfect example of why you can't just believe what you're seeing, your angle, your vantage point, what you're able to hear. Clip I, here's a perfect example.
Did you attempt to understand and hear what various parties were saying at various times? Yes.
He heard it, he says.
Did you ever hear Mr. Floyd say, "I ate too many drugs"? No.
Did he say it though?
There it is.
Did you hear that?
Yes, I did.
Did it appear that Mr. Floyd said, "I ate too many drugs"?
Yes, it did.
There you go.
Believe what you see and hear. Okay. This guy doesn't want the truth. That's what's really clear about this. He wants the opposite of the truth.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. I want the truth as well. And if that means he's guilty of a crime, then I want him to go to jail.
Yeah.
I am not here trying to preach that we should let Chauvin go and nothing should happen. I just want truth to come out. That's it. Period.
But that's him telling him that he ate too many drugs, correct?
Yeah.
What point did he do that? That's him confessing and letting him know.
Yeah.
On the ground.
Well, I think that is definitely something that should be taken into account.
Yeah, it should be taken into account.
Not against the other police who I don't think could even hear it.
No, but my point is...
But against Chauvin, I think so.
This guy right now is saying, believe your eyes, believe what you see. And the point is that was someone who was there, someone who had reviewed it, someone who said, I heard it all. I'm saying, did you hear this? No. And they play it. Did you hear it now? Yes. So the point is this guy is saying, believe what you saw on YouTube. Believe what you saw on World Star. Believe what you saw in on NBC. Believe the selectively edited clips. Just believe what you've seen. Don't believe all of the additional evidence. Don't believe what's been presented. Don't believe the aggregate of everything that has been presented here. He wants low information jurists. That's what he is doing right now. He's actively trying to eliminate the most relevant evidence that could only come out in court to say, let's go back to when you first saw the video and you felt really emotional. That's how you should charge this guy. Let me go back to hear what he's saying now.
Is that common sense or is that nonsense?
And by the way, you guys let me know. Comment below. That's the best thing you can do is comment. I know right now you can't because it's live. We'll be taking your Mug Club chat. But as soon as this is up on YouTube, just comment what you if this is convincing you. If you see this as subversive as I do, I can't believe what this guy is doing. I mean, I can. I don't like it.
That requires a tolerance. You know what the toxicology report says in terms of the levels, and you know what the testimony was about that. Die of a drug overdose.
Mean overdose level for fentanyl overlay H is 3.1 nanograms per milliliter. Floyd had 11 nanograms per milliliter. Now, keep in mind, he's trying to say he had a tolerance. But, again, beforehand, they said George Floyd hadn't committed any crime. George Floyd was clean. Yeah. Remember? Yeah. Now they're saying he wasn't. Well, who said he wasn't? Mama, his girlfriend, said we've been doing drugs. So which is it? Had he been clean, straightened up, and flied right? Or was he with Mama, crack fiend girlfriend, who talked about them doing drugs, and he built up a tolerance so much that he was willing to pass counterfeit $20 to get his next hit? You do have to have one or the other, because now if you're saying ignore all the new evidence, ignore that Mama was his girlfriend, that he was doing drugs, okay, well then we go back to the fact that he was clean. Well, the mean overdose level for fentanyl is 3.1. He was 11. Okay, case closed. No. Actually, he was doing so many drugs that he had such a high tolerance. Oh, but you just said he was lucid. You just said he was explaining himself articulately. You just said he was calling out for his mother. So which is it? There is no way to take this prosecution's closing statement at face value. It doesn't work because the parts of his statement right now don't match up with the initial parts.
Manslaughter in the second degree, the judge read you what the law says those things are, and the law breaks down these different charges into things called elements. First element, second element,
or as Maxine Waters calls it, burn the motherfucker no matter what.
Beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yes.
By the state, in order for the defendant to be guilty of those charges.
I am a representative person. Looted.
This is an opinion, as he says. I think that George Floyd, along with a lot of people, are just simply, you get somebody who's a drug addict. He's at the end of his rope. He has no hope. He has nowhere to go. He's really not going to turn around and change to be a better part of society because, frankly, he kind of can't. I know that's hard to believe, but he's just at a point in his life where he's out of options. At this point, we've shut down most of the country where we're now riling up people who feel like they're useless, they don't have any value, they're completely out of options, and now we're telling them to burn down cities.
Yeah.
We're telling them they're not worthy, and we're telling them not only that, but that they are, in fact, this man.
Right. And you know what else? You know what people die from? It's
What?
not just loneliness. And we've made people lonely. It takes way more time off your life than COVID, statistically. If you look at it, if you look at the mean age of death, I'm not saying COVID is not deadly. I'm saying people who are lonely, particularly in their older age, they die much sooner, just like people who actually live in two-story homes live longer once you get to a certain age. These are basic facts of life. Loneliness, mental health issues, drug addiction. I don't agree with you. They didn't have any other options. I mean, you had options. Look, you're someone who you've been open about that you were an addict, and I think everyone has a choice at some point, and this is George Floyd who chose this right now. Look, there are several choices there. Counterfeit 20s, doing drugs, hanging around with the same people, committing more crimes. There are people who've had worse stories than George Floyd who've come out of it. I never believe that someone is completely out of options, and certainly not from what I've read with George Floyd. He opted for that because it was the easier money.
No, I think he believed it. That's my point.
Oh,
I'm not saying that he was,
Yeah.
but I think he believed that.
Right. Well, why do you think he believes it? Because people like Maxine Waters tell him that's your only option. Because people like Joe Biden say that's your only option. White people bad, everyone's holding you down, everyone's holding you back. They don't tell you, look, right now in places in Florida, they are paying you $50 to show up for a job interview at McDonald's. We can have the news team back there. In fact, bring it up. $50 to show up for an interview.
Wow.
Because people won't show up right now. They don't want to work.
Wow.
They feel comfortable enough with the government money. That's a big problem. That's why there's a shortage right now.
Excuse me, I'm going to McDonald's.
Oh, is that true? Is that
Gonna
true?
go
What?
sign up for a ton of interviews. And
I'm getting free
No,
shakes.
I agree. But I agree. He thinks he doesn't have options.
Correct.
The issue is,
And I'm
he
speaking
does.
from an addict point of view.
Yes.
and
he's
where
got
he's
a medical problem, right? Drug addiction is not just a mental problem. It is or a brain issue, like choosing right. It is a medical issue.
Right.
It has to be treated as such.
Yeah.
And it's treated as punishment. And I understand that because a lot of it is a crime. But when you are a drug felon and all that, everything that he had happening to him, it is very, very hard to make a transition to think you're not useless. Not everybody's Danny Trejo.
But that being said, that being said, there are plenty of people with drug problems, and there are plenty of people with drug problems who commit crimes to try and get their next fix. There's a big
100%.
There's a big difference between that and scoping out a house with a mom who you know is vulnerable, going in with a gang with guns and putting her at gunpoint, jamming it into her stomach in front of her kid. That is not, I'm out of options. That's a sinister bastard.
Have you smoked crack?
Hey, I love this from Business Insider. A McDonald's in Florida is paying people $50 just to show up for a job interview, but it's still not attracting many applicants.
Oh,
wow.
Not good enough.
50's not enough.
Not enough.
I
No
would work
options.
the system.
No
I
options.
would go just for the $50.
Yeah, get your next score.
And then they'd call me and I'd be like, well, I'm not going to work at McDonald's. I'm not a loser. I'm kidding. I'm
And then you'd be
joking.
like, oh, really?
Relax.
Oh, really? After only 6 months, these are your employee benefits? Those are competitive.
Yeah.
Next thing I get a call. Yeah, Dave, you're quitting.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and they're talking about cause of death stuff here, so I figure we have just a second. I think what George Floyd did in crime, robbing that woman, deplorable, right? Here's the thing. Drugs make you do things that you would never otherwise do. But
here's the thing.
Hold on. No. Let me make my point. I have a sister who went through this. I understand that they will make you do things that you would never, ever think that you would do. Mentally, it puts you in a place where you're no longer making the decisions like you normally would. And that's not an excuse. That's a warning. Don't start using drugs unless you want to end up in a really, really bad place.
Yes, and I've
You're
had a lot of
100% right.
and I've had experience with it too. I mean, my dad had a guy who we tried to help for a long time. Steal his truck, and then actually found out had a pair of razors and some rope.
I remember that, yeah.
And that being said, drugs don't make you premeditatedly violent. In other words, there are a lot of people who do drugs who try and figure out a way to do, petty robbery, something like that, pickpocketing, stealing a car. Typically speaking, someone who is doing drugs, who doesn't want to hurt someone else but wants to get more drugs, will at least try those first. Not show up with a gang of guys with guns, scoping out the most vulnerable among us. And jamming a gun in a woman's stomach. That is not something that look, just like when people say, hey, you have mental health issues, you shouldn't have access to a gun. Well, I have people in my family who are bipolar. You know what happens? They get really quiet and sad, and then sometimes they're really fun to be around. Doesn't mean they shouldn't have the right to own a firearm. Yeah. Just like when we say drug addicts, not all drug addicts are marauding, violent thugs. George Floyd chose to be that. And I think that we need to differentiate between, you're not, and there's also a difference between, your executive functioning and, impulsivity. That's not impulsivity.
I think there is, though, a way where you can weigh in where he comes from. A lot of drug addicts aren't violent, but a lot of drug addicts come from money. And I mean, depending on how long that you have this drug in you and how much it overtakes you, there's just a piece of your soul going away every single day. Yeah. And Gerald's right. It will make you do things like that you may think you could never do. He could believe that I'm going in there and I'm not being violent because I'm not actually going to hurt her. That could be whatever mental gymnastics you need to use to get that fixed.
Sure.
Now, that doesn't excuse it, and that doesn't mean you shouldn't be in prison.
Right.
Because it certainly means you should be in prison if you cross that line.
Yeah.
But there needs to be a treatment that for people on drugs, especially if they're going to be on the street the way that they are now, where it's either not completely locked up in prison or a separate drug prison or a rehab that's actually affordable.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
But I think it's important because this shit happens when we don't pay attention to the root of the problem, which, like you said, loneliness, drug addiction, and then when you pepper in being locked inside.
The root of the problem is they just said family. I'm willing to bet didn't have a dad around. George Floyd wasn't a dad to his kids, so it perpetuates that vicious cycle.
I'll tell you right now, I was a great kid who did very well in school up until my dad died, or at least my dad got very sick and was out of the house.
Yeah.
I'm an exact example of that because there wasn't somebody there that I needed.
Right.
And I understand that, and I understand how much that hurts.
I can imagine. Look, no one is saying that he didn't have some tough breaks. The issue here is I don't want everyone to say, oh, someone's on drugs and fear them, because if you say, like, oh, they're going to end up being George Floyd, then people are going to be less likely to stage an intervention because they're afraid that they get violent.
Right. No.
I've known plenty of drug addicts who don't get violent that way. It's a very small percentage of them. Yeah. And
very small.
It's a very small. And so we can't just blame it on the drugs at that point.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, because that's a disservice to other people who genuinely want help. It doesn't seem like George Floyd wanted it.
His drug addiction to this, in this moment, if that's what we're trying, is as, I mean, I hate to say it's as invaluable as anything else at this point, because you're looking at this exact moment. Did this officer intend to kill him or be completely unaware?
Well, I don't even think that's a question. I don't think he intended to kill him.
I don't think he did either.
I think he knew what he had done in 2019 was the same thing that he did in 2020. As soon as the cop comes up, he tries to ingest the drugs.
Oh, you're talking about George Floyd. He was talking about Chauvin.
No, I'm saying I think when Chauvin had him on the ground, George Floyd admitted to why I did too many drugs. I think he ate all of it.
As a matter of fact, there were pills, and then I don't know if we have a. Let's go really quickly. Right. There were actually, this was in the trial, pills covered in Floyd's DNA were discovered in the back of the squad car. Clip H really quickly.
So based on the testing of item 51 and that known sample, what did you find?
Sorry.
From item 51, that the swab collected from that pill, I obtained a single source male DNA profile that matches George Floyd. This DNA profile would not be expected to occur more than once among unrelated individuals in the world population.
Jeez. All right, so that's pretty important. So
you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah. All right. Let's go listen to this lawyer lie some more.
And Dr. Chauvin, who also happens to be a critical care physician, he spent years treating patients in intensive care who were experiencing respiratory failure. And Dr. Chauvin literally wrote the book on the subject, and he was able to tell you.
I'm pretty sure there's more than one book.
What this looks like, what he was able to observe.
The book. It's like, hey, where's your section on respiratory and circulatory systems and health? Just the one.
It's right over there.
It's right over there.
It's between fiction and nonfiction because you decide.
I'm a big fan of Tobin also.
Oh, you mean where do I keep my Tobins?
Yes. And by Tobin's, I mean multiple copies of
the book.
The one book. Yeah. We refer to it as the book.
It's just one thing. It says the in big letters book.
And it's just that image that you see in like the Aleve commercials with a head and a tube and a circle and you open it up.
Force of the pavement unyielding.
And we've got Ben Askren.
Okay, we've got Ben Askren really quickly. Let me.
And he was being, squeezed in a vice.
All right. So look, really quickly, we're going to go. I know this is an eclectic show. We're going to go back to live fact checking the closing arguments at this trial, and let us know what the hashtag is going on here, or if no one is actually watching it on social. In which case,
yeah, we have no hashtag yet.
Wow, that is a sad state of our country. But right now we have him on the show. He had a fight on Saturday night. Look, obviously a rough night for him, but we wanted to have him on the show. I've wanted to have him on for a while. You know him as Master of Funk, Ben Askren, and AWAWisconsin.com is where he it's his wrestling. So he coaches kids. AWA. Did I get this wrong?
That's touching.
Yeah. Well, anyway, he coaches kids. He's a good guy. He's obviously a multiple-time world champion. And here to talk to us right now, Funky Ben Askren. How are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I know this is a weird mix. Don't worry. You don't need to talk about the trial, but obviously...
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm nervous about that because I haven't been paying any attention, so I don't want to make a comment.
Well, especially also because you're good friends with Tyrone Woodley, and so that could be a really rough sparring session if you two disagree.
You know what? I have a lot of friends on both sides of the aisle, and I just tell all my friends, I'm going to respect you no matter what you think. And Tyrone and I obviously have very different views on a lot of the world's problems, and we love each other and we respect each other. So I don't really, there's not issues.
Well, there's not issues. There's not issues because you can kick most people's asses. When I used to do drop-ins and then someone recognized me from YouTube and held an armbar for about 10 seconds too long and it popped, I said, "Oh, I can't do this anymore." Then I noticed when we were changing and he had an upside-down cross tattooed. I'm like, "Oh, I thought I tapped." But I'm not Funky Ben Askren. So Ben, I don't know. We don't need to talk about obviously, I would imagine, disappointed with the results with the fight Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's the obvious talking point, and you're more than welcome to break it up because I decided to come on the show, so that's my problem. I'm disappointed. Just kind of, I didn't spend a lot of time on social media yesterday. I had some high school friends over. We played disc golf, grilled out, had a good time. Some people are just like, they don't think I took it seriously, and here's the thing. When I took the fight, I said, number one, it's for the money. Number two, I think it's going to be a good time. I used to box, with my friends in high school just for fun.
Yeah.
And I trained hard for 11 weeks. I didn't miss a practice, and it just didn't go my way. I mean, we knew he had a good overhand right, and I'm a dumbass, and I didn't block it. My defense was a little too loose. I heard my coaches, both Tyrone and Biggie, were saying, "Hey, stop reacting to his fakes," and I didn't. And I paid the price. And I think one of the things that really separates me from a lot of people is like I could have very easily sat on my couch and said, I don't want to do that because there's a potential that I'll be embarrassed.
Right.
And that would be the only reason I wouldn't have done it. There's no other valid reason. And I said, I'm going to do it, so fuck it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. I think you and I are very similar in that way, in that I, too, find myself unashamed of being embarrassed for different reasons. Yeah. Now, actually, I just noticed Quarter Black just lit up when you said disc golf. I guess he's into it, too. I don't know what this is.
It's classic.
I feel like it's not something an adult should do.
Know. You should know.
By the way, and I know you're, what were we about to say there, Ben?
I was just going to say disc golf is one of the greatest activities. It's it's free in most parks. It costs about $50 to get a set of discs, and it's something I'm very passionate about. So it's really maybe it'll just give you a little more peace and clarity in your life if you got up to the disc golf course and threw 18 holes once in a while.
Well, I tell you what, maybe we'll do that for an Ash Wednesday where you teach me to disc golf. I've actually never golfed. The only golf I ever did was in high school, and I was in a Canadian high school, and it was very cheap. We did wiffle ball golf because they didn't trust us with actual balls. And I was pretty good at wiffle ball golf. So that's the only golf I've ever played. And I live near a golf course, and I still get balls in my yard. And what I do is I collect them, and I separate them by brand. And then when I see a ball go over the fence that's of similar brand, I dump that entire bucket of the brand of ball just to ruin
They're probably pumped. But golf is way more pretentious. and expensive. Disc golf, just a bunch of dudes out in the park throwing some discs.
Okay.
Really good crowd of people.
Okay. And by the way, your podcast too. I mean, for people who don't know, like you're pretty unabashedly libertarian, supporter of cryptocurrency, which I don't understand. Is it Flow Wrestling Radio Live?
So I actually do 3 podcasts. I'm on Flow Wrestling Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursday mornings. I'm on, usually we're not going today, and we're switching to Tuesdays, but the Funky Crypto Podcast, we talk about crypto. And then I do an MMA one with a guy named Front Row Brian, who got kicked off Twitter unfairly.
I remember him.
And we just kind of go whenever we feel like it. We don't really have a schedule, just once in a while.
Okay, so let me ask you this. I don't want to talk about, since, like you said, you just threw it in my face. So you don't want to talk about the fight. Can I ask you about this, though?
You can talk about it.
That event was, and I hope you don't take offense to this, was legitimately the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. It set an entire generation back. I mean, I was watching it going, so is this just women just hump and twerk?
You heard me scold. I scolded the owner of the business when they came to my locker room. That's all live on camera.
I don't know if you saw the one where the guy, the person of color in the one floor of the cuckoo's nest had his hat. He was yelling, "Bitch!" That was his catchphrase, "Bitch!" And this girl is in a mesh bodysuit. She turns around, grabs with her fingers, and spreads the bottom of her butt cheeks. Like, how's that person going to tell their kids to be home at curfew? I don't understand.
No, I don't recall seeing that part, but yeah, I mean, so Pete Davidson came to interview me, and the behind the cameras was, I believe, the executive producer of the show.
Pete Davidson was?
No, Pete Davidson interviewed me.
Oh, yeah.
We sat down. Okay, and then the executive producer of the show was like behind the camera.
Okay.
And I said, "Hey, man, Bert, hey, I have a lot of my wrestling kids watching this. I mean, my brother and I run 5 academies. I can't even imagine what their parents are thinking right now. I feel so effing guilty that their parents are either having to like kick them out or like explain to them what the hell is going on right here.
Or they've been banging on the bathroom door for the last hour and a half going, get out now!
Yeah. I mean, I like to be kind of socially liberal, but that was
no. This is beyond socially liberal.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, you couldn't do this in a strip club in the 70s. I honestly thought, I'm not going to make it to your fight. It was about 2.5 hours where there's no fight.
Yes. Yeah, the first fight was a DJ versus a boxer, which was really, really strange. But then it was a very long time till the next fight came up. Mostly musical performances and dancing, and maybe I'm America's dad, but I did find the entertainment to be very distasteful. And actually, I think everyone in my locker room kind of felt similarly.
Really, and these are fighters. But here's the thing: what are you going to do in 10 years when your kids grow up? They're going to find this on the internet, and I'm like, let me go watch some of Dad's old fights, and they'll have to get through 140 minutes of stripping.
I'm sure they could just type in the name of the fight and they would find just the clip. I'm sure they're not going to need to watch the whole production. So that is positive. I mean, obviously there's the obvious that I'm sure kids are finding worse than this on YouTube and Instagram, unfortunately. But yeah, I didn't love it.
No, I can't. I felt genuinely depressed when I was watching. I was going, oh my gosh, if this is what I've heard of people being out of touch with the youth culture, but I was like, this is not Beatles, I Want to Hold Your Hand, or I was saying even going back to Salt and Pepper, Push It, that was considered scandalous. And then it was like, it was back when it happened. Push it good. And then I'm watching it. My wife, this is the truth. I go, hey, you have to watch this. This is a disaster because everyone's high at the which I assume the EP executive producer was too. I said, sweetheart, you got to come up. Everyone's high. Everyone's drunk. This is gonna, like, I'm tuning in for the fight. This is crazy. And then she walks up, and then it's just a lady go, "Ma, pussy," and then she goes, "Oh, what are you watching?" And I'm like, I swear it wasn't this one. Right before you came up, there was a fight, and it was 20 minutes of just undulation.
My wife was hoping that Kanye and Bieber would do a Sunday service to redeem what we watched on Saturday night. And you know what? I don't personally smoke pot, but I don't have anything really against it for certain adults. But the glorification of it was kind of strange to me. I mean, they were really putting it up there on a pedestal, and that was like kind of eye roll.
Yeah, well, it was because he had Oscar De La Hoya. That's what happens when you combine uppers and downers. As soon as
Oscar had been doing some other stuff.
Yeah, he didn't even get it in the name. He's going, "Go USSR, baby!" And as a guy was on the Navy ship USS FA, he's like, "USSR, baby, go baby, USSR!" Like, does he think he's watching Rocky IV? So anyway, well, listen, Ben, I know it's a weird day today, and look, I really appreciate you getting in there and taking a swing at it. And look, let's do a segment here in the future where you can teach me disc golf, and I'll be sure to not enjoy it, but be a good sport.
You might really enjoy it. Where do you guys live?
We're in the general state of Texas. Yeah.
Texas. So there's a lot of great disc golf.
But you're still in Wisconsin, right? So I'm a Michigan guy.
Austin? Austin, Texas?
Come on, I'm not going to do that right now. Terrorists are watching. But I spend a lot of time in
Michigan. You could say like the general vicinity. Austin's like 60 miles wide.
Well, listen, you know what? I don't know. You know what? Let's just put a pin in where Alex Jones is in Austin and just assume that I live there. But I'm in the Midwest quite a bit. You know, all my family, they live in Michigan. I was born in Michigan, and, you know, the UP is ours. Sorry about that, Wisconsin. So, you know,
that's
a little
weird. It's really weird that belongs to Michigan.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. But enjoy your non-UP Wisconsin. We'll be in touch and we'll do the disc golf. And again, that's where's your Twitter, Ben, where people can find you?
It's just Ben Askren on everything. I got 23 holes of disc golf at my house, not open to the public, but you're invited if you want to come, Stephen. Okay. And then my brother and I own 5 wrestling academies. And the other thing, people were upset that I was smiling afterwards with my wife. I told all of you people before I took this fight, I don't give a shit about the result. When I'm in there, I'm going to try to fight hard. But at the end of the day, on Monday, I'm going to go back to podcasting and coaching wrestling.
Yeah.
And my wife said something funny to me, and I laughed, and people are upset about it. They really need to get a life, and I think they're trying to export their own emotions on me.
Well, I think that if anything, they should be more upset about the fact that after Jake Paul won, he sobbed like he had just defeated Marvin Hagler.
Did? Oh, God. Yeah.
Also, I didn't get the in memoriam. It's like they have DMX and then also Shadow. And my wife was like, well, that's Jake Paul's bodyguard, and it's sad, but this is just, everything is weird. So, all right, Funky Ben, thank you so much. We'll be in touch, brother. Appreciate it. Rest up.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye. All right, let's go back to like I said, it's a weird mix today. Yeah.
Has nobody ever done a sketch? It's just so sad DMX is dead.
I know.
Where were you going with this?
I was going to say...
I just got real depressed.
It looks like right now in the trial that they're trying to make the case for second-degree murder.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Let's go. But then we'll go back to your DMX sketch, which I'm sure is light entertainment.
You go to the DMV, but it's DMX.
Anything else.
Get it?
That he did not consent to this. Now, the state does not have to prove what we don't have to prove about intent. We don't have to show that the defendant intended to cause George Floyd harm. Don't have to show that. You don't need to find...
But you said he meant to. So you do now, because you said he meant to. You said he did it on purpose, that he meant to win. So it does matter because of you.
But just in case you don't believe us.
Yeah.
All the loop-de-loops.
You don't have to show that the defendant intended to kill him. The only thing that the only thing about defendant's intent that we have to prove is that he applied force to George Floyd on purpose, that this wasn't an accident, and it's pretty simple. You know, if you're doing something that hurts somebody and you know it, and you keep doing it, you're doing it on purpose.
You put your right knee in, take your right knee out.
Shake it all about. I guess I know what segment just made the news for us.
Somebody's telling you they can't breathe, and you keep doing it.
He said he couldn't breathe before he got in the car.
Well, so does 98% of the people who get pulled over now, so that doesn't really apply.
Everybody knows what happens when you push somebody.
They yell, I can't breathe, and they toss the spray paint can to the graffiti artist for the mural.
This is my good side.
That's
we learned this
awful.
pretty early on.
Jesus Christ. Sorry. I know you guys don't like that word.
Assault in the third degree
we love that.
requires that the defendant inflicted substantial bodily harm on
that was just road rash on his fingers.
Yeah, but
and that's what happens if you're in concrete. I mean, I don't know. Again, this is all predicated on the idea that cops shouldn't do anything that is uncomfortable or unpleasant.
No.
I don't understand this. If you kick a cop and you are actively resisting arrest and you are on concrete, you should expect a little bit of rug burn. None of that is relevant.
Substantial bodily harm.
I had worse from when Gibbon handcuffed me the wrong way.
That's true. You came in here with some.
I had
some red wrists.
It was like there were those marks, like I had slept on a waffle iron.
Well, his fingers were ripped open.
Well, I was ripped open here.
Was it?
Yeah.
You bet it looks ripped.
He's unconscious.
Do you
He's
work
lost
out,
consciousness.
Crowd?
That's substantial.
You work out.
I've been known to dabble.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You ever need a spotter?
It's a workout called dabble. Proprietary.
I'd love to be a spotter. I don't lift much weight, but I like to watch.
Try to break
Thanks,
it down.
Chauncey.
Find an order.
Second-degree murder.
The defendant caused George Floyd's death. He did. The state proved that beyond a reasonable doubt.
No,
you didn't.
No.
And at the time of
Please
causing
stop
the
calling
death,
yourself the state.
Yeah. They didn't prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. This guy is really, I guess I'm surprised that they're just allowed to be this dishonest in closing statements.
Is this like a
Depends
usual
on where
thing?
you come from, right? If you came into this thinking he was guilty, then yeah, of course, everything they said just lined up with your view. But if you came in objectively, you have some questions.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying everything that he just said is dishonest in the sense that he said, he called for his mother. No, he was trying to call his girlfriend. He had been taking a bunch of drugs, so he had a tolerance. But you said that he actually didn't have a tolerance. He allegedly counterfeit. No, it was actually counterfeit. So it's just I'm not talking about the opinion as to whether George Floyd, whether Chauvin not effectively turning over and performing CPR on George Floyd. I'm not talking about the opinion that is what a police officer should do in that scenario.
Right.
I'm talking about the misstatements that are verifiably false that he's made.
Yeah.
If we were actually to have an honest conversation here, look, if you remove the riots, okay, if you remove the pressure from Maxine Waters, if you remove the defund the police movement, you take all of this away, this would distill to, and it would be a very boring trial. It would distill to, look, cop was well within his rights to do what he did. You have a serial felon. He was committing a crime right there. He was actively resisting arrest. They tried to put him in a cop. They tried to put him in a car. He refused to go in. He swallowed a bunch of drugs. His drugs were this was a level of drugs in his system. He had congenital heart disease. He had arteriosclerosis. He had COVID. While he was on the ground, he was claiming he couldn't breathe, but he already claimed that. And it would really just come down to, okay, what is the police protocol if you have someone on the ground and they stop moving when you're surrounded by a crowd and waiting for paramedics? It really should come down to that. Are you required by police protocol at that point to yourself perform CPR? And the answer to that, and it was very clear in the trial, is in some scenarios, you're actually not forbidden, but you're actually advised not to if there's a potentially unruly crowd so that the paramedics can do their job and you can get people to disperse. That's what this really should distill to, and is a conversation where we could all have opinions. Well, look, okay, I think that, and maybe the problem there lies with the police department, not training people properly. The problem is you can never have an honest conversation when you've lit a powder keg. And right now, everyone is afraid. They're afraid that if they don't convict this guy on second-degree murder, first-degree murder, that these jurors, they're afraid they're going to be responsible for another 24 deaths, for another, 500, 600, 700 officer casualties, for another $2 billion in damages to businesses. These jurors, that's the problem. They're not listening to the actual facts of the case. This is charged by design because of the Maxine Waters of the world.
Well, I agree with that, yeah. I think really what it comes down to in the meat of this is we need to just get rid of firefighters, and when there's riots, call a twerk engine, and they can come and put everything out with their WAP.
Yes.
That's a great idea, though.
Twerk engine.
It's really what it comes down to, guys.
You need to have a public stockpile of penicillin, but sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't want to touch any of the lumber for a few days. Exactly.
Were you about to say something there?
Yeah, so far on Twitter, the only thing trending is Steve Schleicher, the name of the prosecutor. But also, we just said he's trying to prove second-degree murder, and we have this from the Minnesota Office of the Reviser of Statutes. Second-degree murder causes the death of a human being without intent to affect the death of any person while committing or attempting to commit a felony offense other than criminal sexual conduct. So that's what they have to prove, that he was trying to commit a felony offense.
Why does it exclude felony sexual conduct?
That's a good question.
Like if you like, it's like, oh no, it's not second degree murder. I was just trying to rape this broad. Like,
trying to get
sorry.
Geez, I'm sorry.
That's a slap on the wrist.
I'm just doing me, baby.
I don't know. Well, are you committing second-degree murder? No. She's a hooker.
Oh, okay.
Oh, it's fine. You can kill those for free.
Your rap sheet's loaded with dead hookers. I don't know what you.
Yeah.
That's not a second-degree murder.
How do you get a refund from a hooker, huh? You kill her, right?
Right.
All right, I'm gonna go.
I played GTA.
It's a second-degree murder. Really, if
not a
anything, it's
person.
second-degree robbery. What the hooker charged me. So, anyways, that's probably the least important. But it is weird to me that they exclude the felony sexual assault. However, it does show that someone needs to be committing a felony for it to be second-degree murder.
Right.
Yeah.
Felony assault.
Felony assault. In which case, guess what? Why do you think they're having a hard time recruiting police officers right now?
Because people keep killing them.
Yeah, because people keep killing them. Not only that, but you're worried now when you go out and do your job. If I try and restrain somebody and they happen to be hopped up on drugs, it could be felony assault and second-degree murder.
Yeah.
Who would take that risk at this point? I wouldn't.
I mean, they need to at least put $50 out to the applicants. It might help sweeten the pot.
Right.
No, I really do feel bad for a lot of police officers, which is words that I thought I would never say.
Yeah.
And as I've grown up and been an adult and taken responsibility for my own shortcomings, you have to realize that the police are there for a reason, and defunding them is one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
Yeah, well, part of me thinks that when they're arresting people for defending themselves against Antifa, it's like, all right, you know what? Yeah. Defund them. Let the cards fall where they may. You kneelers before BLM and arresters of ladies wearing double masks. So just so you, I'm not saying that police are your friends all the time. And police who are willing to go along with the state and remove your liberties, that's a problem too. And that's why we have a Second Amendment. Yeah. Someone shouldn't be allowed to come into your house, or like they do in Canada, and say, do you have more than 3 people here? Yeah. We're going to arrest you. We're going to break up your place of worship. Yeah.
The Ontario thing is ridiculous.
It's a police state, right?
It is.
It really is the closest. When people throw in Nazi all the time, like, you voted for Trump, you're a Nazi. I don't know. I think when people in masks and guns show up and shut down your church and threaten arresting you, that's as close to the Gestapo as you get.
But then tell the neighbors to call in other neighbors.
Well, it obviously it got worse. They can now stop you for no reason whatsoever to find out why you're out from your home.
Yeah.
Whether you have a mask on or not.
It's disgusting.
It looks like the prosecution's about to say that Chauvin was on his neck.
Okay. All right, let's go.
Indifference. Did the defendant ever listen? Ever consider medical attention?
The paramedics were already called.
No one defended
EMT.
that decision, the failure to give CPR, not even Dr. Fowler. This isn't protection. This isn't courage. And it certainly is not and was not compassion. It was the opposite of that. So back to the instructions.
Everything here is an emotional plea.
You know who else didn't give CPR, if I remember correctly?
When you're delivering.
The paramedics. They loaded him up first,
right,
and then did CPR in the bus because it was too dangerous on the street.
Sons of bitches.
I like how now there's no problem explaining voting.
Absolutely. The state proved that.
No.
Wonder if they ask any of those jurors for picture ID.
Did the defendant act with a mental state consisting of reckless disregard for human life, a conscious indifference to the loss of life?
No.
Limb difference.
That the eminently dangerous act could cause? Yes, he did. And you will find.
Well, how do you have a reckless disregard for human life and then intentional, which is what they have up top? So how do you check both of them? Either it was intentional or it was a disregard and it was reckless. Someone can't be intentionally reckless.
There's a fifth element.
Have you ever seen me dance, son?
I assume it's what I just call dad wedding dance.
Yeah. Right. Sorry, guys, I'm intentionally reckless.
Hey,
Lock
DJ,
me
you
up.
got any Paul Anka?
First degree ripping up a rug. I really can't dance.
That sounds like a Disney one-liner, like some chipmunk or something like.
Yeah,
first degree ripping up a rug. Shake what your mama gave you. Turn the left.
Alvin.
Yeah.
I have a kid. Don't think I don't watch Alvin and the Chipmunks movies. I just watched Chipwrecked recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's not the worst thing you can watch.
Well,
Probably
you know what?
close.
You really now I think
You could watch the beginning of a fight.
This is a
Preview
looking
for
glass
you,
into
yeah.
my future. I think I need to go home and turn my wife into a real life Lifetime movie. Just hey, look, stairs.
Oh, no.
Eric Roberts and Meredith Baxter Burney in Stairs.
Oh, no.
Stairs.
They took my stairs, Charlie! My stairs!
Just standing in front of an empty staircase trying to go up.
Listen, there's one Hey, name that movie reference. Don't.
Of course I know. It's one of the best.
Yeah, it is.
And a lot of people don't know it.
Biden has to have something to fall up.
It's true.
That's true.
Take it away.
And with the defendant and his specialized knowledge about the dangers of positional asphyxia and the common sense that if you put your knee on somebody's neck, there's a strong probability of injury, he knew that too. Great bodily harm, bodily injury that creates a high probability of death.
Nope.
Then you are blaming the police department because it's been used several hundred times.
Yep.
And this is how they teach people. Again, you can disagree. You can have a problem with that control position. I do, namely because it's not very effective. Yeah. Anyone out there who's done high school, college wrestling, or has gotten to a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, anyone out there, let me know. Judo, that's not a pin that would work. That's my problem with it. However, my problem is with, why was that playing?
That's a pin.
How dare you?
My problem is with the police department training people that way. It's not good training. So if you're upset about it, you also need to understand the target of your ire. It's not Chauvin.
Yeah, especially if he's done it several times and not had any problems. I have no idea if that's the case, but I'm guessing it is not the first time that he's done
Hundreds of officers have.
Yeah.
Because they were also taught that.
They didn't die.
Right.
Yeah.
I just think there is the possibility if he did know him and didn't like him.
Well, he just said he didn't know him.
It means that you have to use your knowledge.
He did?
Yeah, the prosecutor said that.
Yeah, when he
said he didn't know him, and so he just called. He had no idea who he was. Officer.
Well, then what's all that I've been hearing?
Where were you? That's the point we were making.
I know, I'm kidding.
I know.
Exhibit 119. You can take a look at all of the in-services, all of the hours. Right? He knew what to do. He just didn't do it. He knew better. He didn't do better.
What is that, his CPR thing?
He wouldn't even let Genevieve Hansen, the off-duty firefighter, do it.
Wasn't that Biden's campaign slogan?
If he wasn't going to do it himself, he
Build
let
back
somebody else
better.
do it.
I don't know better.
I don't know better
But he
building.
didn't.
Rocks in my brain.
Bob the
He
builder.
had the knowledge.
He was
had the
exploring
tools,
door.
he just ignored it. So when you consider this charge, that the defendant caused
Sorry
George
about your
Floyd's
husband. Let me touch your kid's
culpable
face.
negligence, where he took an
Come
unreasonable
on,
risk,
come on, let me smell.
consciously took a chance,
That's only, it's only a sniffer. It's a schnoz. We all do
Doesn't
it.
hurt now.
It's natural.
Man,
I need you to pull over at this park. I gotta go sniff the swings.
So
Not the wooden ones. The rubber. It's porous.
You know
the thing.
They keep my secrets.
finding the murder was committed, the manslaughter was committed, you have another thing to consider, and that is, was this just okay? Was this fine? Is this okay because the defendant was a police officer? Was this an authorized use of force? Was it justified? Was it justified? It was not.
Oh.
Let's
I thought he
look
was
at the
asking me.
instruction. The kind of
I had some time to. I was
I don't know
pondering.
where he was going.
I didn't know he had Mr. Walking Cheat Sheet over here.
I thought he was ordering a sandwich with that stupid glass cage he's in. I hate it every time I see it. No one's going to get germs at this murder trial.
would have known at the
We
precise
can save one life, Dave.
that the
If only
officer
one.
acted with force.
Over my next
Foul
dead
of the
body.
totality of the facts and circumstances to see whether these actions, the defendant's actions, were objectively reasonable.
Expert witness said yes.
Well, not only that, not objectively reasonable. Is it? Were they objectively taught to the police department?
Yeah. No, the expert witness even used those words.
Right.
Kroll used those words and said it was an objectively reasonable use of force.
Germs aren't 6 feet and under. They can go up.
Let's start with the most basic premises.
I'm just saying.
It's a
The whole thing is annoying.
Doesn't make any sense.
His lies.
It's called the germ Nino effect. Where
Oh, that's true.
If they get high enough, they just get sucked
depending
out
on
of
the
room.
temperature of the
Yeah.
room, and then all of a sudden you're like, "What is that? Is that a flying Humboldt squid?"
Yeah, man, that's weird.
Little marine biology humor there.
I liked it.
The niche.
All right, play this. I got to pee. You guys all left and peed, and I'm the only one who didn't. Keep it going.
I figured we were going to be here.
I didn't pee, but I did go into the bathroom. Right, boys?
Oh.
No? All right.
You're a terrible person.
I was giving the Heimlich to someone.
You know, the problem with terms like superhuman,
You don't ever do that?
strength, you
No.
Go to the bathroom and just give someone the Heimlich who's not ready for it?
Stop it, Dave.
Huh?
Stop it.
Sneak up behind him and go, you look like you need the Heimlich. Come on,
man.
Gerald. Come on, Gerald.
Don't accept any motion to the contrary.
Gerald, how tall are you?
6'4".
Yeah, that's good. I could barely even have to kneel down.
That'll work.
Let's discuss the standard.
I don't think this is what Steven
I think
meant.
maybe
What?
he was talking about.
All I'm saying is we go to the bathroom, you get the Heimlich, I bring a step
us,
ladder.
Mike.
Let's get weird. Come on, man.
Got it.
Come on.
All right, let's listen to the guy.
Disappoint your lord.
What would a reasonable bystander do? But under the law, you don't look at it from the defendant's perspective either.
Yeah,
look
you
at
do.
it
That's
from
the other
perspective
side of it.
Of a reasonable officer. And the evidence in this case has shown over and over that the defendant is not that officer because he did not act as a reasonable officer.
Really?
Does anyone else hate that woman's shoes as much as I do? They just, it's like, what are they, sandals or are they
What's
not?
going on there?
Make a choice.
And live with it.
I bet you that, I guarantee you there's just vodka in that bottle, too. Just,
It's water.
It's a long day here, and
Yeah.
these lawyers like to bloviate.
just knowing when she pulls out, it's like, I might have to just drive into 80 people lighting the city on fire. Might as well have a party while doing it.
That was his justification for using this level of force. He's a big guy. He's a sizable guy.
And
he
he's on
might be
something.
on something. We have to control him.
Yeah.
Control is the restraint. So that's the force.
Yes.
That just makes
His two
common sense.
justifications were that George Floyd was big and
He
that
is.
he might be on something. Well,
Which he
you
was.
know the standards. You've heard the
He
standards.
outweighed Chauvin by
many
50
times.
pounds.
You know the difference between a risk and a threat. Officers are
Well,
authorized
bigger
to
than you would be a threat, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Actually, I think
just
he
saying.
outweighed Floyd by like 60 pounds or 70 pounds, right? Because the gear on, I think Floyd with all his gear was 183, so not just body weight.
potential risk.
Yeah, he was a big guy.
Big, small.
I'm sorry, Chauvin.
in
With all the
between.
gear on, yeah.
Yeah,
Everybody's
with
a
all
risk.
the stuff on him.
Not everybody's a threat. Being large, the act. of
I'm
being
heavier than
large
Chauvin because I don't eat
is not a
right.
crime.
The act, hold on. The point he's making right now that being big is not a crime, tell that to Tess Holiday.
Yeah. Tell that to me because everybody acts like
No,
being short is
don't
a
do the
crime.
reenaction, Steven.
Look at
Don't-
that.
This is Mrs.
Oh, no.
Kerbal.
Somebody
What is-
got the Heimlich.
Oh, my.
What is this? The Jake Paul fight?
Yeah, no kidding.
It's not a threat.
I thought you didn't like that stuff.
Force is not authorized
Pepsi?
against someone
What the fuck?
because they're
Hey, language.
Off camera.
I didn't know you meant to be off camera.
We had this. I said because they don't want to be associated with the show.
Oh.
Who?
I
The
didn't.
Schweppes Cadbury Corporation
Sorry.
and all their subsidiaries. There's Frito-Lay.
Look at
There's
what you-
Canada Dry. I don't know why it sounds like the Charlie in the box.
I know.
No kid wants to play with a Gerald in the box.
He got a head injury. He was cleaning the WAP stage last week and slipped.
Nobody cares about that brand
Hit his
anyway.
noggin.
All right, let me watch it. Did I miss anything important? Were you guys
No,
talking
not
about
really. Dave was going to do untold things to me, and that's not.
I was simply asking if I could meet him in the men's room.
You know what, by the way, we can take some of the Mug Club chat. Since we're going a little bit late today, we'll still go to Mug Club only, loudofcreditor.com/Mug Club. But if we want to bring up some Mug Club chat as this goes on, that way people on YouTube know that we don't allow the YouTube chat because we don't want to give them any more support than we have.
Filthy.
All right, let me go on with this.
And the language.
hypotheticals. Talked about a lot of stuff that didn't happen. You need
Like
to focus
you
on
presenting a case.
what did happen.
I'd pay $100 if he just got up. Everything that guy said is bullshit.
It's bullshit. Thank you.
Couldn't you just... Yeah.
Thank you.
Have you been drinking? I've had a few Chardonnays. What of it?
They had him handcuffed.
Is a mimosa drinking?
Come on, it's a breakfast thing. Right, guys?
It's got OJ in it.
Yeah. Who wants to get loose?
I have those old little crystal sherry glasses with a hard-boiled egg.
Yeah.
You usually leave the egg.
Hey, short pants girl with the dumb clog shoes. Do you wanna have a mimosa with me? In my van?
Pressing down on him, continuing to
Down by
twist
the
his
river.
arm, twist his wrist, so it would buck up against the handcuff A pain compliance technique without the opportunity to comply is simply the infliction
What?
of pain.
What? Ah! Are you out of your tree, sir? Think about no ability to comply.
Yeah.
Get in the car? No. We're going to leave the window open? No. We're going to turn on the air? No. Kick the officer, they put him down. If you're not allowed, this is my point, and Dave, I know where you line up here, but this is my point. I think this is very important. If you don't believe that in that scenario, an officer can use a compliance technique, you don't believe that police officers have the right to use compliance techniques. It's like when they say, why don't you just use a taser? But then they say, don't use a taser. Listen, if you don't believe that someone has the right to use their firearm when someone else is running away from the police and has a gun and turns toward it, doesn't matter if he drops the gun, then you don't believe that police should ever have a firearm. If you don't believe that you can use a compliance technique when someone has actively resisted arrest, is larger than you, has kicked a cop, and refused to get in the car, then you don't believe that cops, you just think they should say, hey, you're under arrest, and you say no, and they say, well, I apologize.
I've actually got some body cam footage. Even really? Floyd's friends were like, hey, just sit down.
Yeah.
Just comply.
All right, let's bring up that footage.
Okay, stay put, all right? Let's see what my partner does.
Damn, he still won't get in the car. Just sit down, dude. They gotta push him in his car.
But they wouldn't want to use a compliance technique.
What is he doing?
He's resisting.
Wow.
All he had to do was not a nigga doing.
And by the way, if it was dangerous walking while black, then those people would have been hurt.
Yeah.
You know what happened? He said, get up against the wall. The one lady didn't have ID. The other guy right away gave him ID.
Yep, stepped up.
Because apparently black people do have ID.
Oh, that's right.
Gave it to him, and he said, all right, just can you stand over there? He said, yep. And then she said, he's crazy. Which, by the way, some people are going, she told him he was crazy. And I'm going, yeah, I'm a cop. And she told me he's crazy. So now I'm more on guard. Is that an excuse?
That's what I not believe them?
Yo, we said he was crazy. But then I guess he's free to go.
Wow, that really does destroy the narrative of everybody was screaming that it was brutality, though.
Yeah,
it really does.
Well, that was at the start of it, and then afterwards, when he was down on the ground, that's when people who weren't there for the lead up start going, "Ah, man, you like they didn't know."
Get off him! Get off him!
Well, and that's what it is up until that point with Chauvin.
Right, but what I'm saying is it got unruly because then a crowd started surrounding.
Oh no, I get that. Yeah.
But early on, they were just like, ugh. Like they had been there before. Yeah. You could tell they were exasperated. They were exhausted.
I think they are, yes, and rightfully so.
And this is during a lot of other shootings that happen in riots happening. So the police are aware, the crowd is aware. They're getting more aggressive. So you don't know what's going on.
Let's see what they're saying now, because now that this is when the crowd starts to form.
Concern. The defendant doesn't appear too concerned. It wasn't the.
They just show a still.
I don't want to be interrupt, but is that the little girl who's supposed to not be shown in anything and everything?
Well, they've already shown her like 15 times.
Right, but
okay,
I'm done.
I think the comments of a 17-year-old are being filmed by some civilians. There's a policy about filming. They understand that civilians can film them. They know that. It's right there. This isn't something new or earth-shattering or even particularly noteworthy. Sergeant Steiger, you recall him from LAPD. He used to patrol on Skid Row. He talked about people throwing rocks and bottles. They have a phone. They have phones. They're expressing concern. They're not doing anything.
They were yelling that they were going to F him up.
And this is an incredibly high crime area, and the cops knew that going into it. Come on. Don't act like these are just bystanders going, oh, well, that looks terrible. I can't believe that the police would do something like that.
Oh, yeah, it's high crime. Have you seen the prices at Cup Foods?
I know.
Highway robbery.
Nary a USDA organic label to be found.
Nope.
Shameful.
$1 for a banana? No.
$2 for $1.
Why's it got to be a banana?
Well, that's what they have.
Cup
Foods. Did I do it again?
No, he did it.
Did I make a racism?
Shut up.
How dare you?
I told you. The chief of police, right? That this conduct, the 929, violates the use of force policy, violates the department's core values. He violated his duty of care. He failed to render aid. Remember, Commander, now Inspector Katie Blackwell, who was in charge of all training, looked at this and said, I don't even know what this is. I don't know what this modification is. This isn't how they train. These aren't the rules.
Well, the book disagrees with you.
Yes, in writing.
Yeah.
In writing and pictures. It was a pop-up.
Just in case.
Yeah, you remember the section. It's a whole section of one book.
It is not. We don't train.
I hate court so much. I'm sorry. It's just he's so boring.
Well, you know what? Today you earn your paycheck.
Yeah. How about the chase? You cut to it.
On that day. At
So
that time,
long. At that time, my dad ate that.
Dave is taking personal offense to this guy.
It's just so boring. Edit. If I'm a juror, I'm going to find him not guilty just so he can leave.
He's the litigator.
Can we vote now? I'm ready to vote, Your Honor.
He's the litigation equivalent of Peter Jackson.
Yes.
It's like, I don't know, how long do you think it's going to take to, how do you think this shot's going to go? About 4 seconds? I'm thinking 40 seconds.
Why not?
Also, he's making a big deal of 9:29, but remember, originally it was reported 8:46.
Yep.
Right.
So,
use of deadly force. Not reasonable. Only reasonable force is authorized.
This was that. So a knee
Sergeant
is classified as deadly force.
Expert witness.
Huh.
Los
Yeah.
Angeles.
So
every
also,
time
not
it's
to mention the
used.
pain compliance move of slightly twisting his wrist.
Yeah. Well.
Like you talked about the movie Philadelphia. Just think of Denzel Washington's wrapping up arguments. They're like a minute.
Yeah.
I know.
People are clapping.
They're happy to go home and not guilty.
And you got
in that case guilty.
His heart's in it.
That's never how it goes. It would in real life, you'd be a few good minutes like, you want me out, you want me on that wall. And I'm like, all right, okay, well, thanks for the outburst. Follow up, what were you doing at 9:42 a.m.? I was eating cereal. Okay, and then at 9:56, and that's about it.
Yeah.
Well, I had finished my cereal.
You can't handle the truth. But I do have another hour 42 minutes, so I apologize. The crescendo was ill-timed.
Do you guys?
Poor taste.
Do a lot of vamping.
Do you guys believe in ghosts? That might inherit your body that were once aliens? I do. I'm Tom Cruise, and I'm in the closet.
Was defendant kneeling on Mr. Floyd's neck and back?
At 8:22:24, my stomach hurts, my neck hurts, everything hurts. Defendant heard that. He heard those
My
words.
neck, my back, my pussy, and my crap.
Was George Floyd resisting when he was trying to breathe?
Sorry, that seriously just fell out of my mouth. Steven's going to be
like his
upset.
like his bag of speedballs.
Oh no! Oh no!
Now finish your speedballs, or you don't get your heroin. No,
you can't.
You're gonna finish all those speedballs.
How can you have any pudding if you don't eat your speedballs?
You can't have your pudding.
The man in uniform. The defendant stayed right on
Look,
top.
it's just we live in different worlds. They're also trying to speak to jurors and to people in America who think it's like you don't live in a world where you've actively strong-armed and violently robbed a woman with her kid in the house
Today.
and then lived on drugs your whole life, committed felonies, selling counterfeit bills, then try to hide a speedball in your mouth. These are the kinds of people that police officers encounter on a daily basis. And so and the problem now is we're making it seem like police officers, this prosecution, Maxine Waters, that they're going to approach everyone the way that they approached George Floyd.
Yeah.
By the way, rightfully so, certainly in their approach. We can argue the last minute and a half, but certainly in their approach with someone who was violent if they want to go home to their families. And so now you have kids out there thinking, oh, I just get pulled over for a speeding ticket and I'm going to get shot, lit up. Statistics don't show that to be true. They actually show it to be more true if you're white than black with police officers, by the way. Statistics show that police officers are anywhere from 16 to 18 times more likely to be shot by a criminal like George Floyd than them to actually kill said criminal. This is reality. And so people now are copy pasting, well, I wouldn't want that to happen to me. Did you slip counterfeit bills? Did you rob a woman at gunpoint in front of her kid? Were you developing a crazy high tolerance with your crack fiend girlfriend? Did you lie to the cops? Did you try and swallow a speedball and then spit it out? If not, that's probably not going to happen to you. What's more likely is the two other passengers who were in the car who were up against the wall. And he said, can I have some ID? All right, just stay back. And they said, okay, quit resisting, man. That's how most interactions go. But if you now tell young black men that they're all going to get the George Floyd treatment without giving them context, regardless of whether mistakes were made, you are going to create, well, you already have a powder keg. We're going to riot no matter what.
Yeah. Well, and you've also created a scenario where you're almost guaranteed not to have a fair trial. Because if you're a juror right now, can you imagine this jury comes back? Let's assume they come back not guilty. Can you imagine the outcry? People will find out who these jurors were, and their lives would be over.
Ryan Stelter will beat him with his purse.
I know,
That's true.
right?
His European man bag.
Yeah.
It's a merce.
Merce.
You are right, though. I mean, every one of them now has to worry about being doxxed, their families being hurt. I mean, it's really...
Well, the one expert witness, what is it? They just painted his house in pig's blood, or they left
a pig's head.
They left a pig's head.
Was this
on
the
his front porch.
Krull guy? I can't remember his real name.
Yeah, it was Krull. Yeah.
Colonel
They
Sanders.
left Kathy Bates' head on his front porch?
Yeah.
That's not nice.
Heavens.
Nobody deserves Kathy
Very
Bates'
broad.
head.
Heavens.
Very
Actually,
broad.
they were doing him a favor because the firstborns and the rest of the block died.
Ah, wow.
What was looking out for him?
Did they left a
little
pig's
biblical
head?
humor.
Yeah, pig's head.
They left a pig's head. Yeah. We're right back to John Lennon and the piggies and Helter Skelter and
Really
Charles Manson.
are.
Yep.
Wh-
Have you seen the
Lord of the
little
Flies out
piggies
here.
playing in the dirt? It's like, whoa, I wasn't singing about cops. What about this? Always in starch shirts. Doesn't sound like piggies.
It's the alternate ending to Babe Pig in the City, where they
That'll do,
decapitate
pig.
him.
They keep showing this girl. This underage girl. They're not
Let's do it
supposed to
again.
show
I know
her.
they're not supposed to show her.
Probably
It's-
like, crap, we screwed up earlier. Here she is.
There you go. Yeah,
Just let it fly.
All right, let me go back and listen to them. Sorry, we got to hear what's going on.
By fate, at one single moment in time, to witness something, to witness 9 minutes and 29 seconds.
That girl ripped those
Of
pants
shocking
from Grimace.
Abuse of authority.
McDonald's
To
character.
watch a man die. And there was nothing they could do about it because they were powerless. They were utterly powerless because even they respected the badge. Even seeing this happening, they cried out at first, pointed out, hey, you can get up off him. It became more and more desperate as they watched us go on and on and on, and there was nothing. There was nothing they could do. All they could do,
Much like this.
was watch and gather what they could. Gather their memories.
Which were
Gather their
wrong,
thoughts
proven
and
in court.
impressions. Gather those precious recordings. And they gathered those up and they brought them here. And they brought them here and they got up on a stand and they testified.
And when they were
and
questioned,
bore
it often
witness
didn't hold up. They were wrong.
They bore witness
Facts matter.
to this outrageous act.
They became a part of the
The
scene.
Gave you what they had.
Did you
Their
guys
thoughts,
notice
their
last night how white the Country Music Awards were?
I didn't watch them.
Well, good.
There was no appearance from Hootie.
Darius Rucker?
Right. He'll always be Hootie to me.
I don't know. I never watched that stuff. He will always be Hootie to me. No. I once met a blowfish. Well, he said he was.
Randomly selected people.
That's my favorite Jerry Maguire line when Rod Tidwell, his kid goes up for an autograph. He's like, yeah, man. He goes, you Hootie?
Here you are.
No, I'm not Hootie.
Now,
that was back before you couldn't put that in the script because it would be accused of being racist.
Well, if any black guy puts on a cowboy hat, you know what might be said to you during the day. Let's be honest. It's just, I might call you Hootie. I only want to be with you.
And to use appropriately. But sometimes we take it back. Sometimes when something is really important, we reserve those decisions for ourselves. The state, we have power.
Too much power.
We cannot convict.
Way too
judge
much power.
has power. But he cannot
The judge just has his turtle mask over his eyes
power.
right now.
Ah.
That power belongs to you.
He's blushing through the mask. I do have power.
Yes, I do.
And only you.
I am powerful.
Have the power
I am wonderful. People like me.
convict the
I
defendants of
have
these
the
crimes.
power.
Kissing the judge's
And in
ass.
so doing,
He has powerful legs.
Powerful legs and a great head of hair.
use
Yeah,
of
look at him.
force was unreasonable. It was excessive.
Judge, did you
was
work out?
grossly disproportionate.
Because you could pass for gay. And I don't mean in a sexual way, just, you got that cut look.
Yeah. Look toned.
Not like the 90s where they were kind of puffy, like 98 degrees, and Backstreet Boys was like 90s fit. You look like gay fit.
Like the nice, where it comes to a nice point here.
The nice,
the cum gutters.
You
look like you.
Come on.
No, you got to give him
come on.
There it is.
None of that.
Come on, that made everyone laugh.
Doesn't matter.
It wasn't even a bodily
Sexual
fluid.
fluids.
It was one word.
That's a good thing.
PG-13.
That's so PG-13.
I was objecting to gutters.
I guess at this point, when kids are watching WAP
That's true.
and the Triller Fight Club,
There is nothing I've done that is bad as what you showed me today. Well, I have danced like that once or twice. For money.
Thank you.
Very little money.
All right, so he just wrapped up.
Thank God.
So lie. That's about all we've got.
Oh, sit down.
Lie.
Lie, la, la,
La 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 la.
Lie more.
Is that the boxer? Is that the Simon?
Yeah. Good call. Paul Simon, my friend.
It was Simon and Garfunkel.
Yeah.
Before they split up.
Yeah.
We had Garfunkel in when I did Arthur.
Did you really?
It was during the phase where everyone was specifically instructed to not even utter the name Paul Simon.
How was he?
I actually wasn't there the day he was recording.
You're like, I don't even need to meet that.
No.
Yeah.
I don't need
The lesser
the lesser of Simon and Garfunkel. There are only two. How'd those solo careers go?
Yeah, tell Oates that I'll be there later.
Oh.
Can we hear what they have to say about this?
Let's hear what they have to say.
Really fast. We got this from a Washington Post article that just came out. What's going to happen now is a 20-minute break. Then the defense will go another 20-minute break, a rebuttal, another 20-minute break, and instructions to the jury.
When's the
this
Puppy
thing's
Bowl?
gonna probably go on for a little while.
When's the Puppy Bowl?
I said, when's the Puppy Bowl?
All right. Well, here's what we'll do. I'm going to wrap up a couple of things here that I wanted to go to earlier in the show map, and then we will go to Mug Club only and cover some of the defense. So let me go back to this. We showed you early on, and I think this matters regardless of what CNN is talking about. Look, what should concern everybody here, because you could also be someone sitting in that hot seat at some point. Not only could you be someone, of course, people always say put yourself in George Floyd's shoes. Sure. However, you also have to put yourself in the decision-making process of George Floyd that led up to that. And then in this case, this is something that sort of fell on Derek Chauvin's doorstep, right? You have to put yourself in those shoes and understand that at some point, particularly now, or not only if you're a cop, a business owner, if you're a man who can't get through to your home because of rioters and protesters, you may be on trial for simply hitting the gas pedal on your car. So let me go back to this. We earlier today, I'm trying to see, we had Brian Stelter, Purse. Okay, so let me show you this. This is like I was talking about with the cops who aren't necessarily always our friends. This could be you. Here's an example of a man who is trying to get to his house right now. And this is the powder keg that's been lit, right? You just saw Maxine Waters. We showed you before the show where she was saying they need to be more confrontational. They need to be in the streets. Harass them, she said, right? Don't let them go. Make sure you get a mob. Tell them they're not welcome. And so now you have people with an excuse to commit wanton acts of violence without any repercussions. Now, what happens if this comes to your neighborhood? What do? If you're you could be well within your rights to simply drive home. But if you exercise your constitutional rights, you end up being the one arrested. Here's an example of Stillwater, Minnesota. There was a guy who was trying to get home because protesters blocked a cul-de-sac. It doesn't even look like I don't even know how this is a protest. Clip F, the guy gets arrested. He's just trying to get home.
An angry motorist who refused to move his car. The police were on the scene, and lo and behold, a miracle of God, they took him away, put him in the back of the squad car, they moved his vehicle out of the street so we can peacefully continue our march.
Aren't you supposed to be marching when you march? Like, if you were marching, it wouldn't be that big a deal. It's just like a duck crossing. Like, and you're like, okay. Yeah. They go past, and then you were blocking the road, and the guy ended up telling them, they got into a scuffle. No one was punched, and the cops took him in the back of the paddy wagon.
She doesn't look like marching is one of her hobbies.
No, not exactly.
Not used to it.
She might put it on the dating app, and you go, really? Swipe.
Long marches on the beach.
Free Nike.
Long marches, and by that I mean sitting on the sidewalk or in the middle of the road in your cul-de-sac.
I can block traffic.
I can block traffic. Well, that looks like she'd be very effective.
Oh, yeah.
If it was the marching team, she'd be picked last. If it was the blocking as much of the lane with the least amount of people possible, she'd be number one pick.
Yeah, she could be a professional soccer goalie without even playing ever.
Just whip her hair.
Just go stand there.
Let me show this again. We showed this early on, but I want to show clip C of Maxine Waters because again, this is what she's saying right now. She is directly trying to affect the outcome of the jury, and then I'm going to compare it with the repercussions we've seen with Donald Trump. So clip C, Maxine Waters had this to say: in Minnesota, this weekend should be federally charged, impeached, and should be put in prison.
Fight for justice, but I am very hopeful, and I hope that we're going to get a verdict that will say guilty, guilty, guilty. And if we don't, we cannot go away.
And not just manslaughter, right? I mean...
Oh, no, not manslaughter. No.
No. It couldn't be reasonable.
I don't know whether it's in the first degree, but as far as I'm concerned, it's first degree.
It's Congresswoman, what happens if we do not get what you just told? What should the people do? What should protesters on the street do?
I didn't hear you.
What happens? What should protesters do?
Well, we got to stay on the street, and we've got to get more active. We've got to get more confrontational. We've got to make sure that they know that we mean business.
Yeah, stay on the street. That's wonderful advice for kids coming from a lady who got her mask trimmed off the left side of Two-Face's suit.
The lesser of the sides.
It is amazing that she's wearing that much stuff on her face to protect herself from a germ, but she has no problem telling other people to go out and hurt others.
Right, exactly.
What does it mean to get more?
That's because her movie is like The Sixth Sense, where she finds out at the end, she's like, I was the germ.
All along.
The whole time.
And then there was a shooting right against police, a drive-by shooting right after that. We don't need to show that clip. Yeah. But then again, I just want to reiterate this because this is a long-standing history of Maxine Waters, and you see similar things from AOC. It's just Maxine Waters is around the bend enough that she doesn't even know that she's supposed to veil it.
Yeah.
She just says, blow shit up. So here's Maxine Waters, just a quick montage of her calling for violence.
The people are going to turn on them. They're going to protest. They're going to absolutely harass them until they decide that they're going to tell the president, no, I can't hang with you. I will go and take Trump out tonight.
The Cheesecake Factory.
We have protesters taking up at their house. He's saying no peace, no sleep. You see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome.
And just to be clear, lest I be removed from YouTube here, I'm not calling anyone to violence. I don't want anyone to hurt her, but could you just take off her weave and throw it into oncoming traffic?
Just the weave.
Just the embarrassment. Just a little bit of embarrassment.
Look out, guys. It's a tumbleweave. 8-car pileup.
They're avoiding it because they think it's tire rubber.
It's alive.
Now, so that was pretty clear, right? Form a mob. I mean, would we all agree that we're not playing gotcha?
No.
Yeah,
that's pretty active.
Especially after what happened with the Trump thing and the insurrection. Yes, absolutely.
And I want to show that clip for contrast. At no point did she even specify peacefully, by the way. She went out of her way to be more confrontational, stay in the streets.
Harassment.
So she's not even talking about a permit, right? Or in an area where you have the right to be. Let's compare Maxine Waters with the kind of rhetoric, and by the way, you can buy your Fight Like Hell shirt at crowdershop.com.
Yeah.
That's why we're selling it, because
nice shirts.
Every member of Congress, the Senate, has used that at some point. I don't know if you know. Just a montage we could just run for 2 hours because people say fight like hell all the time. But apparently Maxine Waters gets a pass. Let's compare it with people who had the right to be there. This was planned, a permit, and Donald Trump addressing them. And keep in mind, too, when Donald Trump addressed them, there had never been any kind of violent action on behalf of right-wingers. You can think of the Tea Partiers. You can think of the people who went out there to protest lockdowns, even the state capitol. They had big, scary rifles in Michigan. They weren't shooting anybody. You may not like it, but very, very different from the kinds of riots that we've seen. So let's compare Maxine Waters to what got Donald Trump tried and removed from all of the digital town square.
And we fight
We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved. I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
So again, let's keep this in context. And by the way, you could show those clips out of context, and it's enough.
Yeah.
But I don't want to do what the prosecuting attorney is doing. I want to actually give you the full story and provide some context. In context, at that point, there were a lot of people upset about the way that the election went. And I'm not even talking about massive voter fraud. We're not even talking about that. We're talking about changes to the rules.
Yeah.
Right? We're talking about anomalies. We're talking about mail-in voting and people believing that there should be ID laws, people who were upset. And Donald Trump was speaking to a crowd where there was no plan for violence that we knew of. And there had been no violent acts before that. You're talking about a crowd of several 100,000 people, and you're talking about maybe 20 who ended up committing an act of violence, compared with Maxine Waters, who, after there have already been dozens of deaths, after there have already been hundreds of officer casualties, after cities have been burning nonstop, and they would have the opportunity, people like Maxine Waters, people like Kamala Harris would have the chance to come out and say, you know what, hey, there's a right way to do this peacefully. Not only that, not only did she encourage it all along the way, she showed up in Minnesota to say that unless there is a guilty verdict, no, not manslaughter, we need to be in the streets. You need to stay in the streets and be more confrontational. Not only is that, in my opinion, illegal and an active call to violence, but oh my God, could you give any worse advice for children? Could you give any worse advice for teenagers, for young adults who don't want to be caught in crossfire, for crying out loud? And let's just also keep this in context. 2021, 110 white people have been killed by police officers. 53 black people. And you're going to say, but they make up 12% of the population. But they make up the significant majority of violent crimes in this country.
Well, and police interactions is the baseline there. You're not looking at the population. The population doesn't have any usable information at all.
But none of it matters if you started off with racism. Well, there are more police interactions with black people because all cops are racist. What about the black cops? Well, they're Uncle Toms.
That would just
what about the fact that there are more violent crimes being committed? What about the fact that black Americans speed more? These are statistical realities, and so there are going to be more interactions and still significantly less shot by police officers.
Well, what's really pissed me off, I think that WAPO article actually made the point. You can actually go down there and search by year, by race, by gender. There's all these different things, and it'll show you how many people there were last year. 200 or 300 more white people shot by police.
Yeah.
But then in that same article, they said that you're much more likely to be shot by the police if you're black. And that's the narrative that's going around that Maxine Waters and everybody is trumpeting. And that's just not true. If you interact with the police, the most likely thing that's going to happen is going to be determined on your behavior, not based on your skin color, not based on anything other than how you act. And nobody is saying this. In every one of these cases that we've seen in the media recently, if you don't attack the police, if you don't violently resist arrest, you will 99.9999 times go to jail alive.
By the way, people don't understand this. You don't have the right to resist arrest when it's happening. You have the right to deny search. Right? Well, no, you can't search my car. You should know your rights. You have the right to deny entry if someone wants to come into your house without a warrant.
Though,
they can get a warrant, but you have the right to deny those. You have the right to an attorney. You have the right to not speak with them at all if they take you in for interrogation. You do not have the right, if a police officer at that point, you're under suspicion, is arresting you, you don't have the right to resist arrest. Your rights exist before that, and then your rights exist after that within the process. Let's just be really clear about that. Some people say, well, it's my rights. Your right is not to resist arrest. At that point, if there's reasonable suspicion, they have the right to take you to what was I going to say downtown,
jail.
But not jail, but they have the right to take you to the police office, police headquarters, police station. Thanks.
Yeah.
I've never used a term like downtown to the clink. See, paddy wagon.
I gotcha.
Well,
I
you stop
kinda
using
like
my
the
50s,
downtown.
my James Cagney police terminology. It's turning it into
paddy
Biden mush
wagon
up there.
Yeah, it would have been the most useful piece of advice that you can give to kids right now. Is just when you interact with a police officer, just understand their life is on the line every single time. And if they are violating your rights, if they're the time to fight that, unless you think they're killing you right then, right? And then you obviously have to do something. But if they're violating your rights, sue them.
Right.
If they're doing something and being disrespectful and illegally searching your car, even after you told them, you're not supposed to then try to push them out of your car. Sue them later. You'll win.
Yeah. Well, this is also, and by the way, comment, you guys watching. If you're watching right now live, you know what? If you could just hit that like button, because that also helps too. Just right now, everybody, click, hit like.
right now. Do it.
Boom.
You can do it live.
And then you comment to me. Let me know. We're going to take your chat here at Mug Club, but let me know what lesson you've taken from this. What advice would you give to someone based on not just this trial, but right now the environment in our country, the Black Lives Matter riots, the protests, the counter protests. Look, this is what right now the advice being given to kids. Okay, and you saw it. It was being black in America was trending yesterday. It's driving while black. So the lesson from Maxine Waters is we have got to teach our cops to stop being racist. So look, that takes it out of your hands right now. I know that we have a lot of black viewers, particularly young black viewers, who are watching. And right now you go, well, what do? I can't fight it's a racist system. Now there's nothing you can do. But the advice is don't be black in America. You know what? I would say this, and we'll leave on this. I would say that looking at this trial gives us a lot that we can take. There's a lot that you can use to deliver advice to kids, whether you're white or black. And I would say this, no one's saying this, but if I were Maxine Waters, if I were Joe Biden, if I were Kamala Harris, I'm me. So I would say, okay, look, if you have a drug problem, get help. Okay, first off, if you have it, those resources are available. If you have a drug problem, get help. Before that, let's avoid doing drugs, particularly hard drugs. Okay, let's try and avoid that. Surround yourself with people who aren't doing hard drugs. So kids out there, that's very important, the power of association. You see it with Mama, which is who we thought was his mother, but his girlfriend. This is not someone who's going to pull him out of doing drugs. This is someone who encouraged him to live that life, likely caused him to relapse. Okay, so kids, these are things that you can do with your life, right? Stay in school, sure. Things that are out of your control. Ideally, you have a strong relationship with your parents. Stay in school, but let's not do drugs. Let's avoid gangs. Let's avoid committing even petty crimes because they lead to more serious crimes. Now, if you find yourself in a situation, let's not abuse fellow members of your community by screwing them out of their hard-earned dollar in giving out counterfeit bills. Okay? When a cop pulls you over and says, see your hands, look, it's good for you to comply and show your hands. Let's just go with blanket rules, like the rules that my dad taught me. Hands at 10 and 2, roll down the window and let hello, officer. If you have a concealed carry permit, hand it to them when they request your license along with your proper identification. If the police officer asks you to get out of the car, get out of the car. If at that point you notice that you have drugs, don't try and swallow them. Don't try and swallow them. Also, don't lie to the cops and say that you haven't done anything wrong, that you haven't taken any drugs. These are all steps that you can, if you want to avoid this situation, then don't actively resist arrest and avoid and refuse to be put in the cop car, because we see what happens in that scenario. Also, don't kick cops. If you avoid all of these things, you might be better off. So again, the general rules, the advice that we should be giving is white, black, doesn't matter. It's not about driving while black. Let's not drive while high. Let's have better friends, better association. Let's make sure that you have people around you in your life who help elevate you. Let's not actively resist arrest and put police officers in scenarios where they have to fear for their lives. Let's not lie to cops, try and hide drugs, and then actively, violently kick them. And you know what? You end up with scenarios like, hey, that could have just been me. No, you know what? That couldn't have just as easily been you. But you know who can be you? Ben Carson? Ben Carson could be Condoleezza Rice. These are people who came from Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali, LeBron. Take your pick. There are lots of people who've been in similar scenarios who have had choices to make. And instead, we are not giving this advice to anyone. We're saying it's being black in America. That's not what it is. And that makes people feel powerless, and then they riot because they go, well, there's nothing I can do. The problem is being black in America. Well, obviously you didn't watch the tape, because the two people who were in the car, they were also black in America, and nothing ever happened. They were entirely compliant. The cops let them go on their merry way with their Lululemon handbag. Or as Brian Stelter says, ooh, I maybe want that. Could I turn that into a purse? All right, we're going to go to Mug Club. Continue watching this, and we'll take your chat. Thank you so much. We have a Change My Mind tomorrow if you're on YouTube. Hit like, comment.